He desperately needs money, a way to escape his current life, and his focus lands on a politician, Kim Uesu, whose public image is that of a perfect father, his son Jihoon a top student, a model child, but someone in a classroom sees the truth, as Jihoon is swarmed by classmates after a photo, one girl pulling him aside for a private talk while other students watch with envy and suspicion, leading him into a secluded alleyway, where her friendly demeanor vanishes, revealing her friends. Jihoon reminds her he already lent her money. Then a bully grabs him, threatening blackmail, revealing Jihoon's involvement in a secret website, trapping him with no way out of their scheme. Jihoon's eyes widen at the chilling question. His father, Congressman Kim Uesu, has a perfect public image, and a woman's voice reminds him of the role he must play. Later, he stands hesitantly before his father's door, a trembling hand reaching for the cold doorknob. He steels himself, vowing to keep his secret hidden, but a voice from inside startles him. This congressman confronts him directly, demanding answers, stressing that the election is just around the corner and warns Jihoon not to tarnish the family's honor. Growing impatient, his father demands a response, so Jihoon forces a smile, promising not to disappoint him. But the congressman scoffs, doubting he even could anymore, telling the boy his life is simply to obey orders. Alone at last, Jihoon collapses in despair. Cornered and desperate, the kid demands to know why when a sudden noise completely startles him, only for it to be his cat Lulu meowing from the desk. His panic fades, replaced by affection for his pet, leading to a brief playful moment of levity. And as he holds the cat, he reflects on his isolation, admitting that Lulu is his only true ally in the world. Then his focus returns to the impossible game on his screen. So close to victory after clearing the 99th wave, but the final challenge ends in a crushing game over. Another failure at the impossible 100th wave, this screen mocking his repeated futile efforts. He has tried resetting hundreds of times, but it is just too much. While elsewhere, another top player rages at the very same game, bringing our boy to a grim conclusion: it was never meant to be cleared. A year into the game, the 100th wave remains undefeated. But our boy refuses to give up on the challenge, seeing this game as his only way out for him and Lulu, and he is banking everything on a legendary, fully enhanced item. This very best gear, yet even that was not enough to win, leaving him completely out of options and desperate, when suddenly his cat Lulu steps onto the device, her paw hovering right over the dismantle button, and with a soft press the command is activated, sending a wave of pure panic through him. As his legendary item shatters into pieces, all his hard work seemingly gone in an instant, but the dismantling yields 1,000 enhancement fragments, forcing him to consider starting all over from scratch, and he questions if a new attempt would change anything at all. But the dismantling yields an unexpected item, a dragon's soul. Jihoon knows this is not a normal result for grinding gear, his eyes fixed on the mysterious crystal on his screen. A sudden, shocking realization hits him. And without hesitation, he uses the dragon's soul, convinced he has finally found the key to the 100th wave. With renewed hope, he prepares to start the game all over, while his daily life in the classroom continues as normal. Even at school, however, his mind is on the game, leading to long nights grinding relentlessly at his desk, completely absorbed in his phone even while walking outside. His entire world has shrunk to the glowing screen before him. He repeats the process, dismantling another top item for a second soul, his confidence growing with each successful step of his new plan, until finally he faces the last wave once more. He faces the final, impossible 100th wave one last time, pouring all his hope into a single, desperate tap. This attack connects, overwhelming the final boss. Jihoon watches, determined to finally claim his victory, and against all odds, the screen glows with the word victory. His face lighting up with pure, unadulterated joy, but his celebration is cut short by his father in the doorway. This congressman reveals Jihoon's friends have contacted him, demanding money over his son's petty mistake. His command is simple: do not tarnish the family honor. Terrified, Jihoon can only stammer a desperate apology. He promises it will never happen again as a golf club is raised. His father's rage explodes, swinging the club down hard. Jihoon flinches, his eyes wide with terror. As his device shatters, his only escape destroyed. A shocking question leaves Jihoon completely stunned. He asks his father if he has seen Lulu, but the congressman coldly replies he does not need her anymore. Jihoon's jaw clenches with suppressed rage, and his father looms over him, golf club in hand. Desperately, the boy demands to know where his cat is, only to hear a monstrous reply about his dead mother. This cruel words shatter his world completely, as his father grabs his face, demanding total obedience, then warns him never to be a disappointment again. This declaration of trust feels more like a threat, fueling Jihoon's silent, seething hatred, a vow that he cannot endure this life any longer. Just then, a system message declares him the game's first victor, but with Lulu gone, his victory means nothing at all. His device shatters as a mysterious message appears. An invitation to the very world where the game exists, and a pillar of light descends upon a fantasy kingdom. Inside a castle, guards speak of a savior who has finally come, as Jihoon materializes before kneeling knights, hailed as a legend, while the people look on with desperate hope for their rescuer. But our boy feels strangely numb, unable to shed a tear, realizing his emotions have been completely reset. A voice from the throne clears its throat, demanding attention. And the king asks if he truly is the prophesied knight. Jihoon stares at the man on the throne, a flicker of recognition in his eyes, remembering the exact same face from the game's opening. This ruler introduces himself as King Barris Jordia Roman III, explaining his kingdom is on the brink of collapse from monster attacks, and just then a messenger bursts in with terrible news. Jiun stands numbly, processing his new reality in this kingdom. While the king receives an urgent report from a panicked messenger, a scene identical to the game's opening cutscene. With the situation growing dire, the king cuts straight to his command, presenting a system window offering the role of Knight Commander. But Jiun kneels, preparing to make his own demand instead. He declares he no longer needs the 1,000,000,001 prize, his mind flashing back to his only true friend Lulu, remembering the real reason he fought so hard to win. And he firmly rejects the game's original reward. This court erupts in whispers, calling their legendary night weak, though the king ignores the strange request, repeating his offer, promising to grant any wish Jiun could possibly desire. A flicker of hope appears in our boy's eyes, anything he wants. This king simply tells him to obey, a chillingly familiar order. This king offers him wealth and honor for his service, but the words echo his father's cruel promises. Jihoon's eyes burn with a sudden, furious resolve, as the ruler declares his complete trust in the boy. With a roar of defiance, Jiun screams that he will not do it, leaving the king completely stunned by the rejection. He remembers how his father's title followed him everywhere, and how everyone in his life only ever tried to use him. Now this new world wants him to be a slave called a knight. This entire court gasps, shocked by his outburst. While Jiun scoffs at their offers of wealth and honor, King Barris listens to the tirade, his expression grim, as our boy tells everyone in the room to just die. His finger presses a glowing red button, rejecting the quest, confirming their savior is nothing like the legends foretold. A glitched reject command flashes on screen, stunning Jiun, who recalls the game's simple premise, monsters attacking the kingdom. This player's role was always to defend the people. But he questions if that was the only way to play. By refusing the human faction, he is granted a new choice. A hidden route unlocking before him, the monster faction. He understands the implication immediately. Realizing this path is not about defense but total offense, King Barris warns that every choice has consequences, and a man turns the crowd against Jiun, revoking his title. This king then declares him an enemy of the kingdom, branding him as their greatest threat. His decision to join the monsters has sealed his fate here, leading the king to order his immediate execution. And as the blade descends, Jiun reflects on all he has endured. Surrounded by royal knights, Jiun refuses to kneel, his rage boiling over into a single, chilling command, declaring he is done just enduring his miserable life. He unleashes his fury, striking down the guards in a flash, leaving the king to watch in absolute disbelief. A system window confirms his choice is complete. He has officially joined the monster faction, with the ultimate goal of destroying all of humanity. From this moment on, it is his turn to attack, as a 10-minute countdown to the first wave begins. This system offers a path home if he can claim a special item, sparking a memory of his mother bringing Lulu home, a peaceful time he now desperately wants to reclaim. Back in the present, the S-rank knights are already defeated, this survivor's trembling before his ominous new power. This king struggles to comprehend what Jiun has become, an unknown, monstrous power radiating from the boy. Jiun realizes this faction choice is a new mechanic, but the main quest appears right on schedule, a mission to break through the kingdom's defenses. He anticipates the reward, an S-rank recruitment ticket, but instead of a knight, he receives an egg. It is a special prize for joining the monster faction, and a sudden burst of energy erupts from it, leaving the remaining guards completely stunned. Jiun, however, recognizes the summon immediately. This legendary cold-blooded dragon, Risel Drake, a creature powerful enough to destroy the entire kingdom, only for a tiny bat-like creature to appear instead. He cannot believe this is Risel Drake starting at level 1. A small red creature appears, startled by his touch, then it affectionately licks his hand. Jiun whispers its name, recognizing his lost friend Lulu. This cat-like monster floats as a system message appears, granting him a new skill, the Ruler's Eye. This knights try to dismiss it as just a small monster, charging forward with their weapons drawn, but Jiun does not care if this is real or a dream, his eye glowing as he designates his target. Knowing this creature is his only hope now. This system reveals its powerful dragon breath skill, and Jiun commands the creature, calling it Risel Drake, ordering it to unleash its devastating attack. His face is a mask of pure, unyielding focus, as Risel Drake gathers energy for a massive blast. With a single swing, Jiun unleashes his newfound power, carving a path of destruction through the royal guard. This energy blast rips across the kingdom, striking the castle wall, sending massive chunks of debris raining down on the city. A gaping hole reveals the world outside the throne room, and our boy stands amidst the chaos, completely unfazed. One of the nobles screams, horrified by the single-shot destruction, while others call Jiun a demon, questioning what they have unleashed. A dark smirk crosses his face, realizing how easy this might be. This system reminds him of the prize, one item to take home, and he considers the countless powerful artifacts in this world. But a memory of his empty room gives him pause. There is nothing to return to. For now, he will just focus on completing his mission. As King Barris calls out to the human faction's true leader, this monster king who vows to destroy them all, Jiun declares he is coming for his reward, holding the roaring creature. While far below, the kingdom remains unaware of the chaos. A blonde knight senses the disturbance at the palace, as a red-caped warrior pleads for just a little more time, racing through the halls to reach his majesty. Jiun stands in the wreckage, asking his creature to roar again. And inside, an advisor frantically orders a shield wall for the king, but their defenses are useless against Jihoon's advance, who raises a hand, dark energy swirling as he names his target, his sights set firmly on the king himself. Just then, the red-caped warrior finally bursts into the throne room, joining the shield soldiers in a last-ditch defense. Jihoon unleashes a sphere of destructive energy, his little monster companion rocketing it forward. But the warrior intercepts, relieved the king is unharmed. This guards question why the devastating attack suddenly stopped, and Jihoon realizes his monster is completely out of MP, its dragon breath skill consuming a massive amount of energy. He tries a normal attack, but it fizzles out instantly, leaving him completely powerless for the moment. Annoyed, he sees he has no choice but to wait for a cooldown, just as the red-caped warrior towers over him. A knight of a completely different caliber. A system window displays the kingdom's knight rankings, revealing this new opponent is an S-rank elite. He is Aries, one of the legendary 12 zodiac stars and the kingdom's strongest protector. Jihoon understands just how dire his situation has become as the king orders his forces to eliminate the palace invader. Aries accepts the command, his spear igniting with golden power. An S-rank knight's sudden arrival catches Jihoon off guard. He recognizes this warrior as Aries, one of the 12, a fighter known for his devastating area of effect skills. This knight unleashes a massive flame wall, a torrent of fire meant to incinerate everything in its path. This triggers a memory of a similar attack, a fiery explosion that once tore through his own world. This memory brings back the searing pain of being engulfed in flames, surrounded by the screams of others caught in the blast. Back then, he was just a helpless kid crying out to be saved. But now he understands the skill's mechanics, a straight-line attack, and knowing he was the target, he manages to leap aside. This knight's attack incinerated his own allies without a second thought, a cold indifference that fuels Jihoon's own rage, leaving Aries to mock him for surviving the onslaught. This red-caped warrior vows to burn a hole through Jihoon's heart, but Jihoon knows the warrior's flame wall is on cooldown, giving him what he thinks is a slight opening. This warrior lunges with a flaming sword, pinning him down with pressure. As Jihoon desperately searches for a way out, he refuses to believe it could all end so easily, when a system window suddenly offers an unclaimed reward. A random item box he frantically tries to claim, screaming for the system to give him the reward now. His acceptance is confirmed as he snatches the glowing box. This warrior's strike misses him, knocking the box into the air. His eyes locked on the prize as a brilliant light erupts from it. From the light, a magnificent sword begins to materialize, and Jihoon activates his ruler's eye to analyze the weapon. It is the S-rank sword, Hellbringer, a blade of pure destruction. Jihoon holds his new S-rank weapon, questioning who brought him here. Realizing this immense power is meant for one purpose: massacre. His target is now the entire human faction. Just planting the sword cracks the palace floor beneath him, and the ground suddenly begins to give way. A massive fissure rips right through the throne room, sending our boy stumbling into the air, plummeting as the entire structure falls apart around him. He curses the palace for being too weak for his weapon, his descent accelerating through the dust and debris, frustrated that he has not even started his real attack, refusing to let his mission end so anticlimactically. He manages to stop his fall just in time. Looking down, he wonders what just happened, as his little companion's ears suddenly begin to twitch. Jihoon realizes his companion is a dragon, saving him from the fall, while citizens below stare in shock at the flying man. Reflecting on his near-death experience, he learns a harsh lesson, understanding the immense power gap between himself and this kingdom. More S-rank knights will appear, forcing him to get stronger. So for now, his only priority is escaping the capital. Meanwhile, Aries seethes with shame for letting the intruder escape, calling himself a pathetic fool unworthy of the king's grace. But his self-loathing is interrupted by a messenger, who informs him that his majesty is calling. Aries immediately kneels, begging for punishment for his failure, but the king simply tells him that the sun is setting, a sign that the monsters are about to grow stronger. He tasks Aries with leading the war and defending the ramparts, watching his knight depart with the weight of the kingdom on his mind. As he plummets, a memory of the game's impossible odd surfaces, a game so difficult its first wave was a notorious filter, an onslaught of goblins impossible to stop without an S-rank knight. He recalls how Aries was the perfect counter for that wave, but back in the present, his descent continues unabated. Desperately telling his companion to hold on just a little longer, this ground rushes up to meet them with terrifying speed, and he realizes with horror they're about to crash, aiming straight for a solid stone wall in the city below. With a massive impact, they slam into the street, yet Jihoon gets up, surprisingly unharmed by the impact. This confirms his body is no longer that of an ordinary person, just as a blonde knight appears, questioning his identity. Jihoon stares in utter disbelief, his mind racing, wondering if he is now facing another S-rank knight. An S-rank elite knight named Rib demands identification, and Jihoon recalls being the only one who could stop the 100th wave, because he knew the truth about the so-called abandoned knight, understanding she was the secret key to victory. In his memory, she presses him to identify himself, but he calmly speaks her name, surprising the knight. Explaining it took hundreds of failures to see her true value. She questions his meaning, but he knew she was his core strategy, though with his new faction she is now an obstacle to be eliminated. This elite knight prepares to make the first move. Meanwhile, a goblin with glowing red eyes leads the charge. As human archers on the wall spot the incoming horde, this massive monster army swarms the castle gates, unleashing a volley of arrows upon the attackers. While desperate soldiers hurl stones to stop the climb, far from the palace a desperate siege rages on, their defenses crumbling as a soldier calls for his commander, but news arrives that the legendary Sir Aries is on his way. Meanwhile, Jiun finds himself facing a blonde knight, who demands to know who he is amid the chaos of war. He knows he cannot beat her in a direct fight, realizing his only option right now is to retreat, so he plays the part of a lost, innocent citizen. Until Risel Drake pops out with a very unhelpful roar. Her eyes widen in shock, a monster inside the palace walls, and he panics knowing the explosion links him to the attack. He considers flying away, but it is too risky now. She is a close-range fighter who would intercept him instantly. Just then, she claims to understand the situation. Believing Jiun is a victim she must now protect from the evil monster, Risel Drake lets out a tiny, questioning roar. But the blonde knight remains completely unfazed, calmly assessing the creature's defiant personality. Just then, a massive explosion rocks the distant ramparts, and Jiun sees the perfect opportunity for a diversion. He hurls Risel Drake toward the chaos, ignoring the knight's shouts, leaving her stunned as he vanishes in the confusion. A soldier rushes to her side with an urgent report, turning her attention toward the main castle gate, which is now shaking under a powerful, sustained assault. Behind the doors, the guards brace themselves in terror, as the heavy wood begins to splinter and crack, forcing Rib to order her troops into close-quarters combat. Outside, a monstrous horde swarms the defenses, their hulking leader ready to smash through the gate. This blonde knight and her soldiers brace themselves as the main gate cracks. Her troops stare in disbelief, paralyzed by the overwhelming force. A monstrous, spiky projectile smashes through the weakened gate, prompting the knight to draw her glowing sword and order the attack. A massive, red-eyed monster roars as it bursts through the splinters, unleashing a tide of monsters into the panicked city square. Just then, Commander Aries arrives on the scene, leaving the blonde knight to question his sudden appearance. He seethes with rage, furious that the gate has been breached, and without hesitation unleashes his signature flame wall, engulfing the front line of monsters in a fiery inferno. He smirks, telling the creatures to dance in the flames for his amusement. From a distance, Jiun watches the tide of battle instantly turn. He recalls being the only player to stop 100 waves, but now his role is reversed. As a system window confirms his new mission, destroy the human faction, Jiun looks down at his small companion, promising that one day he will return to change everything. A single drop of rain marks the somber moment, as he tells Risel Drake to just wait a little longer. A vision flashes of a victory he vows to achieve for them all, but the memory ends with the determined face of the Knight Rib, a transition showing him escaping a looming shadow. This human kingdom was his beginning, but now he stands at the entrance to the monster faction's territory. This is a path that never existed in the original game, a world where his hundreds of resets give him knowledge of his enemy, yet here in this new land he is starting from scratch. Standing on the precipice, he suddenly remembers something crucial. Turning to his companion, he recalls Risel Drake was there too. This little dragon hovers, waiting for its master's next command. Jiun stares in confusion at the scene before him, watching a colony of tiny ants hard at work. His companion's presence startles one of them, sending the poor creature into a state of pure panic, as Risel Drake playfully bats at the insects like a cat. Setting that aside, Jiun wonders what his next move should be, just as a familiar red window materializes in the woods. This system issues a new main quest, build a monster faction. He contemplates how to even begin rallying monsters to his side, picturing the weak, low-level goblins he'd expect to find. But the forest is eerily empty, raising the question of communication. Before he can recruit anyone, a dark shape suddenly lunges from the trees, catching him completely off guard with its speed. A voice screams for the human to die as the attack connects, and Jihoon's eyes widen in sheer shock from the impact. A shadowy force slams into Jiun from behind, and he winces, bracing for the killing blow. But the attack suddenly halts just inches from his throat. His eyes widen as he sees his mysterious assailant, a beastfolk warrior with piercing blue eyes. Jiun blurts out the first thing that comes to mind, a rabbit. This immediately sets her off, a vein popping on her head, and she angrily insists she is more like a fox. As she throws a fit, he quietly corrects himself, a white fox. He pauses for a moment, carefully considering her features, then has a flash of insight, identifying her as an Arctic fox. His sudden realization confuses her just as more footsteps approach, and suddenly he is surrounded by a whole clan of them. One of them sniffs him, pointing out a strange contradiction. He looks human but smells just like a monster. A system window announces 2 permanently activated passive skills, granting him monster communication and an unnerving lick ability. He now understands how they can communicate while she just thinks he is crazy. Suddenly, she points right at him, her eyes filled with suspicion, demanding to know what he is as he stammers for an answer. Jiun suspects his likable monster skill is causing this strange reaction. But as he considers its power, a rope suddenly snaps taut before him. This trap springs with a violent, bloody spray, and a trio of hunters celebrate their successful capture. Jiun watches them emerge from the woods, wondering if they are bandits. This fox-eared girl glares, realizing she has been caught by humans. Trapped and wounded, she accuses Jiun of setting the trap for her, furiously demanding to know why he was chasing them. He tries to explain it is all a huge misunderstanding. But one of the hunters shoves the rope into his hands, silencing him. But the attacker is not aiming for him, it is a beast woman in midair, facing off against a hulking, muscular brute with a club, who swings his weapon with ferocious speed. As Jiun watches the brutal exchange in stunned silence, this club connects with a sickening impact to her head, and the brute smirks, believing the fight is over, yet she catches his follow-up punch with one hand, effortlessly twisting his arm back with a furious glare. Her attacker's eyes widen in pure disbelief at her strength, just as she delivers a powerful spinning kick to his chest. Other onlookers are shocked by the power in her small frame, and Jiun can only stare as the brute is sent flying. Just then, another man steps forward, calling her a beast for attacking a human, raising his foot to stomp her while she is down, until Jihoon's imposing shadow falls over the entire scene. A beastfolk girl struggles on the ground, hunted by humans. Seeing this injustice, a young man clenches his fist in anger, as his companion asks if he is all right. This man with the ponytail dismisses it as a close call, questioning why the kid is wandering alone in such a place. Nearby, a bald man taunts the captured beastfolk girl, raising his hand to strike her down for her defiance, and the silver-haired boy's eyes flare with a strange light. His companion calmly tells the attacker to stop. So the bald man sheepishly apologizes for getting carried away. This kid lets out a sigh of relief, though his friend notes their group is aggressive. Then his expression turns sinister, asking about the monster from before. Suddenly pulling a knife on the shocked young man, he reveals this entire hunt was just a ruse to find him. As a blood-soaked blade clatters to the ground, Jihoon reels back in shock, clutching his stomach. As the Arctic fox girl stares, her expression unreadable. An intense heat suddenly floods his system, and the ponytail hunter calmly reveals the blade was poisoned. Coughing up blood, he learns he has only 12 hours left, but his attacker presents the antidote, his only hope for survival. This brute then grabs the captured girl by the head, yanking her forward, demanding to know the location of her people's home. Their target is a specific place, the legendary Fox Den. Weakened by the poison, Jihoon can only repeat the words. Unseen by the hunters, Risel Drake watches from the woods. This name hangs in the air, a place he has never heard of. But the hunter clarifies his life depends on finding the beastfolk village. Suspicious, Jihoon demands to know their true intentions, realizing he'd be leading them straight to a slaughter. This Arctic fox girl pants in exhaustion and pain. As the silver-haired boy glares, blood on his chin, her captor brutally gripping her face and drawing blood. This boy questions if she was trying to sacrifice herself for her village, but she only growls defiantly as the brute calls her a beast. His companion reveals their captives never survive long, just before a sudden blow sends the boy reeling. This fox girl cries out, still pinned to the ground. As the man with the ponytail coldly states beastfolk do not value their lives, he orders his men to stay back in case of an ambush, but the boy knows foxes are clever enough to sense danger. This ponytail wearer demands he act as an interpreter to find the fox den, prompting the boy to nervously ask what they are looking for. This man explains their boss lost an item, promising freedom in exchange for it, triggering a painful memory of a promise already broken by a lie. A flashback reveals his past of being used, where a girl only defended him for the money he provided, creating a bitter belief that he will only survive if he is useful. But he refuses to die here, not yet. Offering to guide the hunters to the beastfolk village himself, hoping to prevent any more bloodshed. These hunters are shocked he can actually speak the monster language, while the Arctic fox girl senses he is different from other humans. She looks up, desperately asking if she can truly trust him, and Jihoon's determined expression gives his silent answer. He then declares he is not on the human side, warning her that these men are dangerous people. His eyes widen with urgency as he tries to explain, just as the ponytail hunter prepares a syringe for the girl. But Risel Drake suddenly interferes, leaving the man confused. Bleeding from the mouth, the silver-haired boy stammers in shock, just as Risel Drake's eye erupts with terrifying red energy. His companion senses the sudden, dark shift in the kid's mood, while the bald hunter finally spots the tiny monster hovering above. A dark power gathers inside the small dragon's mouth. Seeing the danger, the captured fox girl screams a warning, but the silver-haired boy grimly states it is already too late. Risel Drake unleashes its devastating dragon breath attack, striking the ponytail-wearing hunter with a piercing beam of light. This man collapses instantly, shocking everyone present, and the kid can only stare in horror at the brutal aftermath. Both remaining hunters are frozen in utter disbelief, all while the tiny dragon lets out a furious, triumphant roar. This boy clutches his chest, realizing a cooldown is not enough. As the hunter's body dissolves into nothing but smoke, this brute stares at the melted grass, realizing the attack was far from weak. His companion grips his club, terrified for his life. Enraged, he swings his weapon at the tiny dragon as Jihoon can only watch the scene unfold in horror. This club connects with a brutal impact, sending Risel Drake flying, and the tiny dragon lies motionless on the ground, knocked unconscious. This hunter glares at the downed creature, furious it singed his hair, while his men suggest capturing the monster for a profit. But Jihoon's voice cuts in, coldly stating it is not needed, so the hunter orders his men to watch the captives, deciding he will deal with the unconscious dragon himself. Jihoon grits his teeth, knowing his communication skill is his only lifeline, triggering a flashback to his past of always being judged for his usefulness. A bitter reminder of surviving by being a useful coward. but he decides that part of him is no longer needed. In a dark room, Jihoon faces a blinding light, lost in thought. He is done with the regret of losing everything. As the hunter swings his club, screaming monster, Jihoon shields the captured fox girl from the blow, deciding what is not needed as a passive skill activates. This physical monster skill granting him strength beyond human limits. This hunter declares that Jihoon is the one who is not needed, just before a massive punch shatters the very ground. This Arctic fox girl stares in absolute disbelief, while the other hunters point out their leader's mangled tongue. Their leader lies broken on the ground, his face completely caved in, and Jihoon stands over the carnage, his new power on full display. His terrified companions abandon him and flee, shattering the only antidote. She recognizes the poison's effects, baffled by his impossible strength, leaving her speechless at the human who just saved her life. Kneeling in the aftermath, Jihoon cradles his small companion, realizing the tiny dragon risked everything just to save him. This exhausted creature can only nuzzle against his chest, and looking down, Jihoon is reminded of another lost friend. A painful memory surfaces of the one who gave him strength, seeing Risel Drake now as his only true companion. And with a blood-stained smile, he vows to protect him. But the remaining hunters interrupt, invoking their boss's name in a desperate threat, only to be met by Jihoon's icy, determined glare. His sudden shift in aura sends a chill down their spines, and the two thugs turn and flee into the woods with a final warning, leaving Risel Drake to let out a triumphant, if tiny, roar. Jihoon watches his companion's brave display for a moment, just before the poison in his system finally takes its toll. And the Arctic fox girl can only watch as he collapses to the ground. Jihoon lies unconscious as tiny fox spirits poke at him, his consciousness fading as he believes this is the end. One of the small creatures watches nervously from the darkness, and his mind drifts back to a painful memory of his mother, a moment of despair from his youth, and the bitter realization that someone never came for him. Suddenly, his eyes snap open, pulling him from the past. He finds himself in an unfamiliar, torchlit cave, where the Arctic fox girl supports him, asking why he helped her. She carries him deeper into the cavern, lighting their way. They arrive at a hidden village where her return with a human causes a stir. Rabbit-eared villagers stare, sensing something is different about him, two of them whispering about an inexplicable pull they feel. While he rests, the villagers note the poison has been neutralized. But he is already awake, too flustered by their attention to move. This Arctic fox girl asks the curious villagers to give their guests some space, as a new voice chides them for disturbing his rest from a nearby doorway, and Jihoon's eyes snap open, recognizing the sound. A different fox-eared woman stands over him, confirming he is finally awake. She explains the villagers' excitement as they have never seen a human before, but notes that he does not actually smell like one. Jihoon suddenly realizes the poison's aura has completely vanished from his body. Learning the village fortunately possessed an antidote, his mind races with the implications of what just happened, remembering the hunters and the grave danger he almost led to their home. A flash of fangs reveals a startling change within him. This Arctic fox girl, Rhea, then asks why he would save her, especially since he is a human who does not smell like one. She looks at him intently, sensing there is more to his story. Recalling the moment she saw him cradling his injured companion, Jihoon mutters about his likable monster skill annoying the fox girl, who explodes, calling him annoying despite just being saved. Nearby, Risel Drake lets out a tiny, defiant roar, and Jihoon quietly offers his thanks for the rescue. He then bows to the fox girl, surprised she went so far for him, but she awkwardly calls it even since he saved her too. A sudden happy sound catches Jihoon's attention, as Risel Drake joyfully flies right into his face, leaving our boy laughing while his companion nuzzles him affectionately. This fox girl decides it is time for proper introductions, just as a rabbit girl interrupts, summoning Rhea to the village chief. They are led out of the caves into the open canyon, revealing the hidden village of the beastfolk to a stunned Jihoon. This sanctuary is a new home for displaced rabbit beastfolk, where villagers greet Rhea, concerned about her weakened state. A massive minotaur scolds Rhea for her recklessness, watching with a concerned gaze as she leaves with Jihoon. Jihoon notes how much the villagers seem to care for her, but he senses she has been feeling down. Suddenly, she shouts at him, catching him off guard, demanding to know if his name is actually Hey. Her frustration is clear as she waits for an answer, and Jihoon finally realizes he never introduced himself. He awkwardly gives his name, Kim Jihoon, prompting her to give her full, elaborate name in return. Jihoon then asks if her leg is okay, and she reassures him it is better after being treated. Her mood suddenly brightens after sharing her name, a quiet understanding dawning on his face. Just then, a new main quest appears, build a monster faction. This Arctic fox girl calls out, telling Jihoon they need to see the chief, but he is annoyed she is calling him Hey after asking for his name. As he hurries after her, a new quest suddenly appears, rally monsters to build a faction. This village chief, a smiling rabbit-eared elder, declares Jihoon will take over the village. This sudden news leaves both of them completely speechless. This Arctic fox girl immediately protests this impossible decision, but the elder simply states he is too old, dismissing her concerns. She argues that a dream is not enough reason to trust a stranger, but his mind is made up. Her pleas continue as she begs him to rethink his choice. Jihoon, however, remains silent, processing everything that just happened. This chief then explains his peculiar dreams are prophetic, always coming true, and in his vision, Jihoon was the one destined to save them. A quest window pops up, making him wonder if this is tied to his main objective. And the implication sinks in: if the village needs saving, then it must be in danger. His mind flashes back to the ponytail hunter's words about a lost item. A sudden worry crosses Jihoon's face, and he calls out to Rhea with an urgent question. He asks if she was followed on her way here, but she explains the village has always been hidden, protected by a vast sea and impassable mountains. This only way in is a secret tunnel dug by the rabbits. Its interior is a complex, confusing maze, making it nearly impossible for outsiders to navigate. Jihoon confirms he did not sense anyone, offering some relief. Yet a deep, uneasy feeling still lingers within him. Meanwhile, the ponytail hunter laughs, having found a way in. Emerging from a hidden cave entrance overlooking the village, his voice echoes through the canyon, announcing an intruder, leaving Jihoon and Rhea stunned by the impossible breach. This hunter now stands before the villagers, spreading chaos and fear. A captured hunter is brought forward, tracked by the trail of Rhea's wounds, and she is horrified, realizing her mistake led them right to the village. This minotaur quickly tells her not to blame herself, insisting they can simply erase the trail now that the man is caught. Other villagers gather to comfort Rhea, telling her it is not her fault, but Jihoon interrupts, asking about the other two bandits. This captive just sneers, vowing this place will soon burn. He boasts his bandit group is so feared the kingdom has given up, and their boss, Scream Spike, is bringing 200 men to storm their home, a name that clearly troubles Jihoon. Elsewhere, the two fleeing hunters find their way through a dark tunnel, this one with the mangled tongue calling out for his boss, demanding revenge on the person who broke his face. A massive horned leader listens silently from the shadows, just as the hunter screams he has found the beastfolk's secret tunnel. A horned man praises his little brother for a job well done, announcing with a smirk that they are heading to the fox tunnel now. This ponytail hunter from before reports back with a sinister grin, while a captured thug reveals this was all part of a larger plan. A flashback shows the two hunters fleeing through the woods after their defeat, this injured one insisting it is time to return to their hideout. From the trees, they saw Jihoon's collapse as a golden opportunity. Back in the present, the captive taunts the villagers, declaring them all dead, leaving Rhea completely stunned, asking what he means. She desperately turns and calls out Jihoon's name, who gravely confirms the bandits have discovered their hidden sanctuary. Her eyes widen in absolute terror at the revelation. Jihoon then recalls the name of their group, Scream Spike, from somewhere, remembering it from an old tower defense game he used to play. In that game, endless waves of monsters eventually overwhelmed everything. Jihoon's mind flashes back to a game system called Adventure, a mode where players formed parties to clear stages, earning valuable items after each victory. This game world contained 100 stages in total, but he only vaguely recalls the first area's final boss, a location known as the Scream Spike Band hideout. It was described as a den for a cruel band of thieves. And a chilling realization hits him: there was no Warren in the game. This village, according to the lore, is destined for destruction. Back in the present, the captive hunter offers a twisted chance, promising mercy to whoever sets him free. Though the beastfolk do not understand his words, this hunter's desperate plea spreads fear through the crowd. Jihoon turns to Rhea, admitting it is his fault their home will be massacred, because this place is fated to become the bandits' new hideout. Jihoon's eyes darken, refusing to accept their fated destruction. This captive hunter continues to taunt them all, but Jihoon steps forward, declaring this place his new stronghold. His fist clenches with sudden, brutal intent, then slams directly into the hunter's face, silencing the man's threats in an instant. This sudden violence leaves the minotaur stunned, while the rabbit folk cry out in utter shock. Even Rhea is speechless, her hands covering her mouth. As Jihoon stands over the fallen man, done with his words, he issues a simple, chilling challenge to fight, and Rhea finds her resolve, vowing to protect their home. A voice of doubt, however, calls it impossible. It is the minotaur, who explains they live in hiding for a reason, revealing the village is full of women and children, not fighters. Rhea scoffs at the chief's prophetic dreams, but the elder gathers everyone for a formal announcement, officially declaring Jihoon the new leader of Warren Village. At that moment, the sound of marching echoes through the woods, as the ponytail hunter reports directly to his boss, Scream Spike. This bandit leader gazes upon the hidden valley, coveting it, and vowing to make it the Scream Spike band's new hideout. His massive army of thugs charges forward, ready for a massacre. Back in the village, the minotaur assesses their grim situation, counting only 3 bull beastfolk among their fighters. He adds 2 deer beastfolk to the meager tally, followed by 5 sheep beastfolk who look terrified. Rhea is counted as their single fox warrior, bringing their total forces to a mere 112 villagers. Jihoon grimly calculates the odds, facing an enemy twice their size. Jihoon knows this is not a war of numbers, but of individual strength. He remembers Rhea's ambush, where she felled a bandit in 1 hit, and even a 2-on-1 fight would likely be her victory. But the minotaur's words echo in his mind: they have never fought properly, meaning their latent power, their beastification, is an unknown variable. A new hope sparks: if everyone has her potential, they can win. He approaches the minotaur Tor Brinlak, asking about Rhea's true strength, and Tor considers the question while Jihoon feels a surge of confidence. As Rhea plays with her companion, the minotaur prepares his answer, calling her Warren's single greatest warrior. In fact, even if the entire village attacked her at once, they would not stand a chance against her alone. This devastating implication of this sinks in for Jiun, realizing everyone else in the village is completely powerless. This terrified faces of the other villagers confirm his fear they are not fighters. Jihoon's mind races looking for a warrior on par with Rhea, which means he is the only one who can step up, a realization that leaves him completely stunned. He calmly explains the bandits will arrive at sunset, giving them some time, but Rhea is confused, asking how he could possibly know that, and he simply points to the captive he interrogated. Jihoon then recalls the bandits were searching for a lost item, wondering if the village holds some hidden treasure or resource, but Rhea insists they have nothing a human would want, making him think their reason for attacking is just an excuse. Just then the Minotaur approaches, asking the new chief for orders. A look of grim resolve settles on Jihoon's face. He knows to win against these odds they need high-level fighters, and the strongest warrior in the entire village is Rhea. But the people wonder if even she can face 111 enemies alone. Jihoon struggles to gauge their power, wishing he could see their stats, and a sudden realization about stats hits him. He remembers his passive skill, Rulers, which is activated by saying the word status. Jihoon immediately tries it, shouting the command aloud, but nothing happens, leaving Rhea completely confused. Mortified, he recalls that command is for the inventory, just as a red window titled Abysslot materializes before him. His inventory screen is, as expected, completely empty. He deduces the name is different due to his monster faction alignment, and in all the chaos, he'd forgotten something crucial. His powerful sword, the one from the glowing box. A flashback shows it left behind in the palace rubble. He curses himself for not storing it before he fled, but now there is no way to go back and retrieve it. Jihoon wonders why his stats are locked, looking for another way. Rhea grows impatient, urging him to act quickly. Feeling guilty, she asks for his instructions. With renewed resolve, she vows to protect her home, and Jihoon looks at her, knowing time is running out. He decides to stop obsessing over his own stats, instead using his ruler's eye to designate a target. A red data column materializes, leaving Rhea confused. At last, Jihoon understands the skill's true purpose. Realizing he must designate a target to view their stats, her information flashes before him. She is a B-rank warrior. A rank he knows is as strong as a mid-level knight. Her details also reveal a latent beastification skill. As she reminds him of his new role, he spots a strange heart icon, which seems to react as she pledges her full support. Jihoon's system shows a number suddenly decreasing, while his hand moves on its own, poking an angry Rhea. This new chief panics, insisting he did not mean to do it, but Rhea is still absolutely furious about the situation. A sigh escapes him as he looks over the vast valley, then he orders Tor to gather everyone in the village. Jihoon awkwardly tries to brush off his new title. As the villagers begin to form a long line before him, one by one they approach until the final sheep villager steps up. He is checking each person's stats, a process that drains his stamina. With the population confirmed at 114, he knows who the strongest is. This small creature, Risel Drake, an S-rank monster. Its powerful dragon breath attack has a 2-day cooldown, making it useless for the coming fight, while the rest are mostly E-rank. He recalls the game info. The bandits are a C-rank level threat. Jihoon finishes assessing their ranks, a grim understanding dawning, comparing their villagers to the bandits' superior quality. His fist clenches, knowing at this rate victory is impossible, but this is not a game anymore. It is a reality with variables he can somehow exploit. He vows to create his own advantages, turning to Rhea and Tor to reveal his strategy. Meanwhile, the massive bandit army marches through the forest, dragging a captured bull beastfolk with them as a trophy. From the bushes, 2 rabbit folk scouts watch in horror, knowing they must hurry back to warn the village, but a shadow falls over them as a bandit appears. This young girl freezes in terror, calling for her brother, while the thug smirks, realizing their cover is blown. His hand shoots out, silencing the scout in a brutal instant. This captured rabbit scout glares back, bloodied but defiant. Her brother flees desperately through the woods, as the bandit leader calmly watches the boy escape. His underling questions letting the scout go, but the leader reveals a sinister plan to infect them. Meanwhile, Jihoon organizes the villagers into defensive teams, just as the surviving scout races toward their cave hideout. A sudden commotion makes Jihoon turn with a worried look, realizing the scout has arrived with terrible news. Tor Brinlak looks up, knowing humans are at their doorstep. A white-haired beastfolk questions the scout about his injuries, while the boy screams that the enemy is already here. He bursts into the cave, delivering the urgent warning to everyone. Jihoon's hand hangs limp as he recalls his past. He is the player who survived 100 waves, now facing his first real defense. Jihoon vows to protect this place at all costs, as the bandit army gathers at the mouth of the cave. Their leader confirms the route, eager for a swift attack. And with a roar, the thugs charge into the narrow passage. Inside, Rhea and Jihoon watch their enemies approach. She nervously asks if his plan will actually work. Unaware of the danger, the bandits march steadily forward, their second-in-command estimating a 30-minute journey. This leader scoffs, assuming the villagers are cowering in fear, vowing to personally handle the one who fought back. But as a thug takes a step, the ground beneath him shifts. He looks down, startled by a strange sound from below. Suddenly, the entire path erupts in a storm of earthen spikes, and a bandit screams a warning to his comrades, but it is too late as the trap springs, engulfing the army in chaos. This bandits cautiously enter the dark passage when one of them suddenly screams in terror. Their leader grabs a subordinate demanding answers, as his men lie broken in a massive pitfall below. A survivor realizes the villagers have set traps for them. A perfect execution of Jihoon's cunning plan. His strategy involved simple but effective covered pits, designed to collapse under a certain weight, sending the charging thugs straight to their doom. This bandit scout insists the path was clear just yesterday, leaving the remaining thugs hesitant to move forward. His subordinate warns the boss about the danger of more traps, but the leader only scoffs at their caution. Instead, the brute lifts a massive boulder with raw strength. Preparing to clear the path with overwhelming force, a bandit plummets into a pitfall, shocking his comrade. This leader explains the cave floor is naturally solid rock, so any patch of loose dirt is an obvious trap. He then remembers a crucial detail. This areas with more gravel are the hidden pitfalls. Scoffing, he calls the traps proof of their weakness, and orders his men to simply walk around them. From the shadows, Rhea panics as their plan is exposed. But Jihoon reveals this was his intention all along. He knew digging deep holes in the stone was impossible, and filling them perfectly was also out of the question. In reality, only 2 of the traps are real. This rest are just fakes to buy them precious time. Now conscious of the danger, the bandits will move slowly, giving the villagers time to prepare for the next phase. A deep rumble echoes as the cave wall begins to crack. This bandits flinch, startled by the sudden noise. As their scout recalls the path, pointing them toward the right fork, but the leader pauses, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. They arrive at a 3-way split, not the simple fork they expected, and confusion spreads as his men argue over the correct direction. This leader scoffs, dismissing their tricks as mere illusions. Realizing this is all a ploy to buy the villagers time, a luxury he has no intention of giving them, his order is given to split into 3 teams and push forward. With his subordinate Crane leading a group down the left path, a brute named Dump takes his squad through the middle tunnel, while the leader himself charges down the right passage with his men. Suddenly, Crane's group finds their way blocked by a cave-in. At the same time, Dump's team spots a guiding light ahead. This bandit second-in-command rallies the troops, spotting what they believe is the cave's exit. Their leader smirks, confident in their victory, and gives the order to kill everyone on sight. With a roar, his men charge out into the light, pouring from the passage, ready for slaughter. But the commander stops, completely stunned by the sight. They have emerged into an empty forest, not the village. Jihoon's diversionary tunnel has worked perfectly. Meanwhile, the second group finds the correct exit, sending a messenger back to inform their lost boss. Suddenly, a subordinate spots something in the distance. Pointing to a man tied and gagged against a tree, it is their own scout, forced to watch the villagers escape. This bound man struggles, trying to warn his approaching allies. This bandit leader questions his subordinate's report, while a scout races back through the cave to warn him, but a shadow suddenly falls over the messenger. It is Rhea, unleashing a devastating surprise attack, crushing the scout before he can deliver his message. Beside his warrior, Jihoon stands ready, their ambush complete, revealing his plan to use fake traps to alter the terrain, making the crude decoys force the enemy to split up. Now the bandit leader learns his army has been divided, turning their numbers from a strength into a weakness. As 113 villagers now surround his isolated 60 men. With the trap sprung, Jihoon and Rhea emerge from the cave, where he gives the final command to all his forces, unleashing a massive charge from all sides. This new chief's grand operation has officially begun. 2 distinct warriors appear, one holding a strange cube, the other a glowing sword. This bandit leader roars a furious command to kill them all. His horde charges down the hill toward the fleeing beastfolk, as a massive brute raises his hammer over a small rabbit girl. Just then, Jihoon gives the signal, shouting for everyone to awaken, and the brute's hammer smashes into the empty ground. He stares in shock as the villagers completely disappear. Jihoon's plan unfolds. Beastfolk generate smoke when they awaken, creating the perfect smokescreen for a counterattack. This entire bandit army is plunged into a thick, blinding fog, and with the first phase complete, Jihoon focuses on his next move, signaling that it is now Tor's turn to strike. From the mist, a hulking form with glowing red eyes emerges, sending bandits flying with a devastating, chaotic assault. As one thug finds his arms pinned to the ground by an unseen force, a bandit's face is crushed by a powerful, unseen fist. Elsewhere, a thug flees a charging beastfolk, cursing the rabbits, while others surround a small sheep-like creature, beating it mercilessly. But their blows do nothing, leaving them utterly confused. Suddenly, hot projectiles rain down from the smoke, striking the bandits, revealing a tiny red creature hovering above as the source. Watching from the cave, Jihoon sees their momentum has turned the tide. His expression hardens, recalling the leader's mocking arrogance. As down below, a bandit grabs a comrade for cover, his men desperately fighting back against the beastfolk emerging from the ground. Jihoon then sends Rhea to reinforce the villagers on another front, and in a blur of motion, she leaps into the fray, leaving our boy to manage the battle from his command post. This bandits can only stare, stunned by her blinding speed, until one archer takes careful aim, vowing to bring the fox girl down. An arrow streaks through the air, aimed at a lone beastfolk warrior, its deadly point reflected in her calm, focused eye. With incredible agility, she twists her body to evade the shot, planting a hand firmly on the ground to pivot, then launching herself directly at a hulking bandit, her kick connecting squarely with his jaw. This brute scoffs, thinking the attack was weak, and grabs her leg with overwhelming strength. He prepares to slam her into the ground, but a delayed reaction sends him screaming in agony as she unleashes a flurry of attacks on his comrades, dropping another thug with a devastating strike. A nearby villager freezes, stunned by the brutal display, watching the warrior stand over the fallen bandits, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. Rhea lands a brutal kick, taking down another thug, leaving him gasping for air on the ground. She stands victorious over the fallen bandits, warning them never to underestimate the villagers again. Meanwhile, the hammer-wielding brute seethes with rage, his fist clenching as he glares at the beastfolk. He decides to unleash one of his special skills. His body begins to warp and grow unnaturally, a transformation that catches Jiun completely off guard. A system window reveals only high-ranking knights can use skills. And the brute's power skyrockets with a strength enhancement. Another bandit screams in frustration, calling them pathetic monsters, but the enhanced brute suddenly senses a new presence. A massive hand grips the earth nearby, revealing Tor, who now towers over the shocked bandit. A bandit stares in disbelief, lost in the chaos. From afar, Jiun witnesses the battle's explosive conclusion, his face a mask of grim satisfaction. Deep within the cave, a single drop echoes in the silence. Where Crane grows impatient with the long wait, his men wondering why no messengers have returned. He tries to brush off his growing unease, deciding to lead his men toward Dump's last known position. But outside, the battle is already over. Jiun surveys the captured bandits, their defeat absolute. Tor then delivers the casualty report, a stark reminder of their 113 versus 60 fight, revealing they suffered heavy losses despite their victory. This young chief knows this war is far from finished, as the remaining enemy forces still outnumber his own. Jiun knows it is time to strengthen their forces, turning to Tor with a new command. His order is to distribute all captured weapons, and the villagers eagerly arm themselves with the spoils. Even the brute's massive hammer is claimed, forming a fully equipped if ragtag army. Activating his ruler's eye, Jiun assesses them, revealing their attack power has nearly doubled. This result is far beyond his wildest imagination. Meanwhile, Crane's forces finally exit the tunnel, emerging into the eerily quiet forest clearing. This bandit leader wonders at the unsettling silence, until he sees the gruesome display before them, a field of his defeated men left as a brutal warning. His shock turns into a horrified scream. Crane's subordinate is stunned to find his comrades alive, discovering them buried to their necks in the canyon floor. As one man approaches to help, beastfolk warriors leap out, and a sudden tremor shakes the entire passage. Crane's remaining forces rush deeper into the caves, but the leader realizes they are completely lost without a guide. A scout points to a watery path, believing it is the correct route, leading them to a three-way fork in the tunnel. Suddenly, a man realizes they are standing on a weight trap, shouting that the ground is about to collapse. A foot slips as the earth gives way beneath them, leaving the bandits scattered and disoriented. A subordinate questions what happened, confused by the false alarm, but his boss's hand tightens on his weapon, and Crane brutally strikes down his own man in frustration. A bandit prods the ground, finding solid stone. Crane realizes the traps were just a clever bluff, his amusement quickly turning to pure rage. This former knight vows to slaughter them all, when a scout suddenly stumbles toward him, announcing they have finally found the correct path. A confident smirk crosses the bandit leader's face. But outside, the sun sets on a finished battle. Jiun stands over the captured bandits buried in the dirt, recalling his plan to collapse a single tunnel wall, a simple trick that created a confusing loop. Now he knows they only need to survive one last assault. One of the captured men spits out his gag, defiant, warning that their leader's arrival will end this. He claims their boss, Scream Spike, is on another level. Rhea brutally stomps a captive into silence, reporting their fighting strength is now 65 people, while the remaining bandits number 60 including their boss, though their side is exhausted from 2 battles. Jihoon's eyes glow with calculated confidence. These villagers have gained valuable combat experience, and he declares that they have all grown stronger. He then comically complains about his heavy sword. Suddenly, footsteps echo from the cave's entrance, and Rhea announces their final opponent has arrived. Crane emerges with his remaining forces, radiating menace, spotting his defeated underling buried in the dirt. This bandit leader glares, calling his own men pathetic fools, then turns his attention to Jihoon, questioning his scheme. But our boy calmly corrects him, calling it a strategy. Crane smirks, mocking Jihoon's newfound confidence, and declares that his 2 victories mean nothing. Jihoon coolly accepts the challenge, ready for the final fight. But the bandit leader switches tactics, offering a threat instead, putting a blade to the throat of a captured bandit. This demand is simple: drop their weapons or the hostage dies, and his cold expression shows he is not bluffing. This captive cries out in terror, a classic villain's ploy. Jihoon knows he has little choice in the matter, so one of his warriors reluctantly drops their spear. Our boy watches in disbelief as his people begin to comply, a sight that brings cruel smiles to the bandits' faces. Something feels wrong as Jihoon senses a strange shift in the air, just as Crane places his hand on the ground, unleashing a terrifying power that commands them all to kneel. Jihoon stares in disbelief at the bandit leader's power, who unleashes an area-wide buff called Scream Spike. Tor and Rhea feel the immense surge of energy as the bandits' combat power suddenly skyrockets. Crane gives the order for a complete massacre, and his supercharged forces charge toward the villagers. This two armies clash in a brutal, chaotic melee, but the villagers are immediately overwhelmed by the power gap. One warrior is instantly disarmed by a hulking brute, then struck from behind by a smaller beastfolk ally. He collapses to the ground, wounded and defenseless, as a crazed bandit mocks his swift defeat. This small rabbitfolk allies freeze in terror before one is cruelly snatched up by the bandit, while another villager is sent flying by a hammer's blow. This bandits unleash ropes, trying to ensnare Tor. His massive hammer gets caught in their trap, and the men pull with all their might to restrain him, digging their heels in against his incredible power, swarming the giant beastfolk in a coordinated attack. Another beastfolk is captured, mocked by his captors. Flaming projectiles are hurled into the fray. While archers take aim at the small creatures in the sky, Jiun realizes his forces are being pushed back despite their new strength. He frantically searches for Rhea amidst the chaos, just as she deflects a bandit's weapon with a powerful kick. Landing with agile grace on the battlefield, she stands surrounded, a downed enemy at her feet, her expression a mask of fierce determination. But Jiun knows she has reached her absolute limit. A memory of a harsh slap snaps him to reality. As a brutal impact rocks the battlefield, sending Rhea crashing to the ground, wounded, Jiun knows at this rate they are going to lose, leaving only one path to victory: eliminate the leader. Tor leads the charge, drawing the enemy's full attention, and is quickly overwhelmed, beaten to the ground, yet his eyes burn with an unyielding fire. This is all part of Jihoon's desperate gamble, recalling their plan for Tor's one final awakening. A 3-minute transformation saved for the perfect moment. Now captured, the bandits move in for the kill, their blades rising for the final fatal blow, but the signal is given and Tor awakens. He erupts with power, his body transforming instantly. With Tor transformed, Jihoon leads the charge. Their new plan is simple: take down the boss in 3 minutes. They sprint across the battlefield toward their target, but Crane simply smirks, beckoning them closer. Tor unleashes a furious roar, swinging the captured ropes, his eyes glowing with raw, untamed power. He ensnares one of the bandits, lifting him into the air, but the rope is tied directly to Crane's hand. Tor uses the man as a living flail, smashing him into his allies, creating a devastating impact on the field. Yet Crane mocks him, calling the transformation an empty bluff. This bandit leader's condescending smirk never fades, just as Jihoon leaps in for a surprise attack. But a knowing smile crosses Crane's face, as he instantly pivots to counter the boy's assault. A bandit lunges from above, aiming directly for Jihoon. Our boy's eyes widen in shock at the sudden assault, but a beastfolk ally intercepts the blow, crashing to the earth. This downed warrior looks up helplessly as a boot descends, and the attacker lands with ground-shattering force. Jihoon is thrown back by the shockwave, struggling to his feet, a sadistic grin spreading across Crane's face. This hulking bandit immediately rushes Jihoon again, while Rhea brutally slams another enemy to the ground. A cry of agony escapes Jihoon as he is struck down. Rhea turns in alarm, his name on her lips, but his bloodied expression is one of pure resolve. He internally reviews everyone's stats, including his own, confirming his combat power is lower than both Rhea and Tor, yet his hand touches the ground, a new plan forming. Jihoon's power awakens, triggered by a human opponent. A passive skill activates, Physical Monster. Unleashing his rage, he puts his faith in this new strength, granting him a massive boost against human enemies, and Crane's eyes widen in sudden disbelief. A staggering 200% increase in power. He lands a brutal punch, shattering the bandit's confidence, leaving Rhea completely stunned by the sudden turn of events. Tor can only watch, equally shocked by the kid's raw power, as a devastating blow sends the bandit leader flying backward. Jihoon is certain he heard a fatal blow land. Standing over his foe, he believes the fight is over, but Crane just laughs, denying him a third victory. This villain rises, completely unfazed, leaving our boy in despair, before Crane seizes his wrist with crushing force. Crane looms over the kneeling Jihoon, his power overwhelming, but our boy glares back with pure defiance, refusing to fall. This bandit leader grabs his head, preparing to end his resistance, and with a brutal slam drives Jihoon's face into the dirt. Pinned and helpless, Jihoon can only groan in pain, as Crane orders him to stay down for everyone to see. This public humiliation is meant to break the villagers' spirits, who can only watch in horror, calling out to their chief. Tor's eyes narrow, his concern growing by the second. He suddenly shouts for Rhea to stay away from the fight, but she is already charging in right into a bandit's sights. This fox girl sprints forward, already wounded but undeterred, her face a mask of desperate, furious resolve. From the ground, Jihoon's eyes widen in absolute terror, screaming her name as he realizes the danger she is in. This sky burns with the colors of sunset, declaring their time has officially run out. His forces begin their cruel celebration, announcing the end of the war to the villagers. With a sadistic smirk, Crane gives the order, a command to burn their entire village down. Instantly, flaming torches descend upon the village, igniting the dry thatched roofs on impact. Even their precious food stores are set ablaze, destroying everything the villagers have worked for. Pinned down, Jihoon watches in utter despair, as the village is consumed by a raging inferno. Cries of terror erupt from the villagers, forcing them to flee their burning homes. This bandits only laugh, gleefully fanning the flames. This rabbit folk watch their home burn to the ground. As Crane lectures Jihoon on the brutal reality of war, a harsh lesson that the losing side loses everything. Elsewhere, captured villagers are cruelly tormented, and Tor can only watch as his kin are threatened, his friends wounded and dying all around them, their entire foundation turning to ash and smoke. Crane's grip tightens, choking the life from Jiun, lifting the boy off his feet for the final blow. Rhea looks on in horror, his name a silent scream. While Jihoon's hands weakly grasp at his captor, this bandit leader simply mocks his futile resistance. But inside, Jihoon's will to fight reignites, a memory of a peaceful past fueling his resolve, solidifying his ultimate purpose to win at any cost. Jihoon, bloodied and defiant, absolutely refuses to yield, screaming to the heavens that he will never give up. His terrified villagers can only watch the scene unfold, while Tor looks on with growing dread for his chief. Rhea's eyes are locked on Jihoon, his name a worried whisper, but Crane simply mocks the boy's empty defiance, his hand moving toward the dagger at his side, declaring Jihoon's role in this fight is now over. Under the full moon, the battlefield holds its breath. This lunar light reflects in a determined, glowing eye, just as a blur of motion slams into the bandit leader, sending both figures tumbling through the air. Crane crashes to the ground, stunned by the sudden assault. As a monstrous, blood-soaked hand seizes his wrist, a shocked Jihoon stares at the strange, sudden turn of events. He recalls other beastfolk awakening with just MP, but Rhea never could, even when it was available to her. She refused to use it, even in mortal danger. Her hand falls, her body giving out completely. Her awakening had a special condition, the moonlight. Now transformed, she awaits his next command, and a confident smirk crosses Jihoon's bloodied face. Nearby, the hulking bandit clutches his broken arm. As Jihoon gives a single, brutal order, eliminate them all. Under the moon, her power has doubled completely, and Rhea calmly accepts her new mission. Our boy watches as she becomes a blur of motion, her first target roaring in defiance and pain, yet she meets his furious strike with icy calm, ending the fight in a single, devastating flash. This defeated bandit calls out in disbelief, as Rhea's attack sends his body flying. She coldly dismisses his plea, her power leaving the other bandits terrified. Suddenly, their stat buffs completely vanish, while the village continues to burn under the moon. Jihoon watches the chaos unfold, a new system message appearing before him. Tor feels the surge of this new power, granting a boost to all the beastfolk. This captured villagers feel their strength return, inspiring one warrior to call for a counterattack. Her cry ignites their will to fight, leaving the human bandits in a state of panic, and Jihoon sees a new hope for his people. Jihoon watches the village burn in the aftermath. This rabbit folk hunt down the last of the fleeing bandits, but our boy is filled with regret for his overconfidence. His new allies celebrate their hard-won victory, surveying the ruins of their first battle together. With half the village gone, Jihoon feels the weight of loss, and many beastfolk were killed or wounded in the fight. He blames himself, wishing he could have done more. Rhea tells him he does not have to bear the burden alone, reminding him that everyone has different strengths. A flashback shows his desperate struggle against Crane, his defiant cry echoing in his memory. She tells him he did the best he could with his power, her hand gently touching her own arm. Then she asks him to lead them as the new village chief. In the rain, Jihoon calls out Rhea's name, as his reputation with the villagers suddenly soars. A flustered Rhea struggles to find her words, before dashing off to help with the post-war cleanup. Her energy inspires the survivors to rebuild their homes, while our boy knows this is only the beginning. A system window confirms his main quest is complete, offering a new random skill as a reward. He vows never to repeat his past mistakes, instantly learning the weapon refining skill. Several days later, reconstruction is well underway, and Rhea calls up to Jihoon as he works, holding out a piece of food for him, insisting that he needs to eat first. He is left confused as she places it on his head. Jihoon stares in disgust at his meal, their only food source having survived the fire. He questions their all-carrot diet, ultimately accepting his forced vegetarianism. Turning his attention elsewhere, he asks about an injury, and a villager confirms they can now help rebuild. This beastfolk's vitality is truly remarkable. 2 weeks passing as the village is slowly restored. During that time, they held funerals for the fallen, while the 55 captured bandits were put on trial. Every villager demanded immediate revenge for their losses, but executing unarmed prisoners was a heavy burden. After much debate, a difficult decision was made, sending the bandits away on a small raft, though their journey is far from a simple release. These bandits were a notorious group the kingdom could not capture. Now sent to a sea teeming with deadly monsters, Jihoon hopes they find justice at their journey's end. Later, while eating a carrot, he remembers something important, recalling the true reason the bandits attacked their village. Inside Rhea's home, which survived the fire, they investigate, activating his ruler's eye to scan the room for clues. This reveals several low-rank enhancement stones hanging from the ceiling, but his attention is drawn to another gem on a table. A powerful B-rank enhancement stone sitting in plain sight. He wonders why Rhea would have such precious items, when suddenly a heavy sack drops from above, spilling out an entire hoard of enhancement stones. Our boy is completely baffled by this sudden windfall, a shocking realization dawning on his face. Jihoon discovers several large sacks in the warehouse, which are filled with a massive hoard of gems. He is ecstatic, realizing they have found a fortune. A flashback reveals foxfolk love shiny things for good luck, a habit the bandits must have exploited, making him realize this treasure is why they were attacked. Rhea carries the heavy guilt of this revelation, even trying to throw the gems away in her shame, but Jihoon stops her, placing the blame on the greedy. His simple words striking a deep chord within her, and her affection for him suddenly skyrockets. He decides to take charge of the treasure for safekeeping. This war solidifying a new resolve within him. Their new inventory is now filled with valuable resources, but Jihoon knows they need more than wealth to survive. Rhea finds Jihoon in the armory, questioning his presence. As she sits atop her shadowy, cat-like companion, before a rack of swords, Jihoon declares he is testing something. His luck holding a dagger and a strange blue stone. He activates his new skill, Weapon Refining. A sudden red flash erupts from the building, startling Rhea as her shiny stone shatters in his hand. But Jihoon realizes the enhancement was a success. This system confirming Crane's blade is now more powerful. It also reveals a lower success rate for higher-ranked items, so he decides to start enhancing everything he can, causing more red flashes to light up the night. These strange lights are visible all across the settlement, each pulse a sign of another weapon being forged anew, leaving his villagers to wonder what their new chief is doing. A yawning Rhea finds Jihoon still hard at work, seeing him surrounded by thousands of broken swords, all the weapons he was supposed to simply discard. Furious, she grabs him by the head, demanding an answer, but he simply declares his enhancement a success. In his hand, a dagger now glows with a sinister green light, and he proudly shows off his successful upgrades, a whole pile of low-grade weapons now empowered. Even Tor's hammer has been massively improved, though Rhea remains unimpressed by the dusty results. Just then, Tor arrives to see the new village chief, and Jihoon offers him the newly reforged weapon. This beastman's hand closes around the hammer's grip, his eyes widening at the power he feels, unleashing a mighty roar as he tests its new strength. Tor admits the hammer is heavier but still usable, its C-rank stats now boosted to surpass B-rank power. Rhea questions Jihoon's mixed expression over the upgrade, as he remembers his own S-rank weapon Hellbringer, a blade he could not wield due to his lack of magic. Meanwhile, in a sprawling kingdom far away, two figures approach a mysterious crater left untouched. A blue-haired woman with glowing glasses senses an ominous aura, just as a powerful scream erupts from the chasm. A warrior in golden armor struggles to pull a sword from the earth, this blade pulsing with a strange, dark power. He feels a sudden jolt, his eyes widening in surprise, stumbling back as he questions what just happened. His followers are shocked that even Sir Aries cannot move the blade, leaving the warrior to stare at the mysterious weapon. A new main quest suddenly appears. He must expand his forces to 1,000 strong, unlocking a party system for team-based bonuses. Jihoon immediately recognizes the four-member party format and rallies his companions to hunt for new allies. But Tor refuses, choosing to protect the village instead. Jihoon understands the risk of leaving Warren defenseless, imagining the settlement destroyed in their absence. Still, he needs a full party for maximum effect, scanning the remaining villagers for potential recruits. This rabbit folk seem far too weak for the task, leaving him to wonder who is strong enough to join him. Their stats are all too similar, forcing a change in plans, and he whispers a new strategy into the beastman's ear. Tor agrees, and they gather everyone for an announcement. Jihoon knows he cannot just take anyone for this mission. Holding auditions for a new expedition team, Tor announces the challenge to a crowd of beastfolk, calling the first 4 candidates forward for their test. This criteria are simple: prove you're strong enough for adventure. But the first rabbit folk candidate is overcome with nerves, quickly getting dismissed for a lack of ambition. This next group's only skill is planting carrots, so Jihoon discreetly calls Tor over, whispering a new set of instructions to him. Tor then dismisses anyone not truly committed to the cause, narrowing the field to only the most dedicated warriors. He calls the next hopeful candidate to step forward, this tryout's continuing inside the half-built structure, leaving another applicant completely speechless with fear. Rhea looks on in surprise as Jihoon holds auditions, where a rabbit folk named Rain eagerly applies for the team. She nervously awaits their judgment, even pledging her life to the cause, but Jihoon simply calls for the next applicant. Her hopes are crushed as he waves her away, only to learn she was the only one who applied. This sudden realization leaves Jihoon completely stunned, and so the Lizard Expedition team is officially formed. Rain is horrified to learn their target, having been too nervous to hear about the Lizard tribe. With their destination still undecided, they set out, learning the old village chief has been asleep for weeks, a full month to their utter shock. Jihoon had hoped to ask him about potential allies nearby. Tor reveals a grim reality: human invasions wiped out all nearby monsters, and Rhea knows the few hidden survivors will not be enough, declaring they need truly strong monsters to fight the human faction. Just then, Tor mentions one strong tribe that has not submitted to humans. But this group is fiercely independent, refusing all alliances. He names them as the Lizard Tribe, located deep in the swamplands, their territory a misty, dangerous place north of Warren. So feared are they, other monsters avoid their lands completely. This name instantly clicks for Jihoon: lizard men. He remembers them as powerful monsters from the early 30s waves, which means to the current world they must seem invincible, especially since it has only been 2 weeks since the first wave. A plan forms in his mind: recruit these future threats as allies now, turning to Tor with new resolve to ask for their location, and the Beastman unfolds a map revealing a treacherous journey ahead. This long journey already has Jihoon exhausted, while Rhea cheerfully finds an enhancement stone and Rain carries a massive pack determined to be useful. Her resolve is clear: she must prove her worth. As Jihoon questions their progress, Rain eagerly steps up, presenting her own scouting records to find their way. A sudden roar from above makes Jihoon realize they are too late, but she tries to rally the team by urging them forward. This rabbit folk feels the pressure to be useful, telling herself to wait for the right moment. Suddenly, a massive boulder blocks their path, giving Rain the perfect chance to prove her specialty. Activating her awakening, she summons a pink rabbit-like being, which shatters the boulder with unexpected force. Confused, Rhea asks about the awakening, but Rain dismisses it as a mistake. Jihoon sends Rain ahead to scout the canyon, but the rabbit folk worries her help is not needed. Suddenly, she stops, sensing movement ahead. Her exceptional hearing makes her a natural scout, Rhea explains, a fact that makes Jihoon reconsider her value. She then charges forward with surprising ferocity, and he remembers seeing this determined child before. This source of the sound is finally revealed, stampeding creatures. A threat Rain instantly identifies as the rat tribe. It is not just a few, but a massive migration, leaving them to wonder about their destination. Rain's expression turns grim as she realizes their path. They are marching toward the human settlements, specifically headed for the kingdom itself, a revelation that sparks a dangerous theory in Jihoon's mind. Rain notes the rat tribe's strange movements, their unusual gathering signaling a major event is unfolding. So she suggests they follow to confirm a suspicion, and Jihoon asks his demonic companion for assistance. As the others dash ahead, Rain is slowed by her heavy pack, feeling like a burden until Jihoon devises a plan. He reaches out, activating his storage skill on her bag, which vanishes instantly, stunning them all with his magic. Her bag now sits in his inventory, a massive item in a special slot, but his focus remains on identifying the approaching threat. With their new member unburdened, the team leaps into action. While in a distant city, a war bell tolls ominously, its citizens fleeing in terror as monsters swarm the streets. Armored soldiers mobilize with disciplined haste, their commander leading the charge against the coming darkness. The city's knights, led by Sir Aries, march to face the threat, as a mother explains to her child why monsters attack, calling them evil beings that force humanity to grow stronger. Sir Aries listens from a distance, her expression grim and determined. Meanwhile, Jihoon's demonic companion is in a panic, flying wildly off course as Rhea and Rain watch from below. It lands on Jihoon's head, completely drained of energy, so he tosses Risel back into the air for a gentle descent. But the little demon suddenly loses its strength again, causing both of them to plummet from the sky. Their shadows race across the ground as they fall, crashing into the earth with a massive impact. Amidst the dust, Jihoon clutches Risel protectively, and the little creature seems completely unharmed to his relief. He now realizes they have landed right next to the kingdom. Jihoon's eyes widen in utter shock. His companions rush to his side, asking if he is okay, but he can only stare at the scene before them, leaving the others completely bewildered by his reaction. They have found the rat tribe's home, now a gruesome tomb, a massacre stretching across the entire settlement. This bodies bear wounds from sharp weapons, a clear sign of an attack, and Jihoon grimly realizes this has happened before. This sight triggers a painful memory of a similar slaughter. Flashing back to a ruined city scene through a shattered gate, he remembers the shock of seeing so much death, but now he feels strangely numb to the carnage. Rain is confused as the sounds she heard were moving away, until a faint cough reveals a lone survivor in the dust. And Jihoon immediately orders Rain to prepare herbs. A healing salve is applied to the rat folk's deep wound, and Rain asks the injured creature what happened. But his gaze falls on Jihoon with utter terror, triggering a memory of a human knight's glowing eye, and he stammers in fear, recognizing humans as the enemy. This rat folk screams, trying to back away from Jihoon, convinced that humans are responsible for his tribe's fate. Rhea calmly tells him to look closer. Noticing Jihoon feels more like a monster than a man, Jihoon then asks for the full story of their migration, demanding to know what befell the rat tribe. This survivor explains they were attacked by armored humans, knights from the kingdom who launched a sudden assault. His memory shows a line of knights confronting his people, their commander ordering the merciless slaughter to begin. This vision reveals a brutal clash, the rat tribe fighting for their lives. And Rhea explains the humans slaughtered them without mercy. Jihoon's demonic familiar projects the tragic memory into their minds, showing the swift, merciless attacks that leveled their villages. Their leader reveals 8 settlements have already been destroyed, rallying his people who can no longer bear the injustice. On the human side, archers take their positions on the castle walls, their commander taunting the approaching monster horde. With a furious roar, the rat tribe's leader declares the attack begins tonight, uniting all the oppressed monster tribes for revenge. A massive army of monsters now stands before the human fortress, ready for war. As the vision ends, a survivor explains he saw the one responsible, a human with a lip ring. He reveals the true reason behind the unprovoked massacre. It was all orchestrated by a single green-caped individual, who slaughtered them all just for a small purple stone. Jihoon processes the horrifying truth, his expression grim. While in the vision, Rhea notes the sun has finally set, and the rat tribe is driven by a single burning purpose, to kill every last human for what they have done. From the castle walls, a commander gives the order to fire, unleashing a deadly volley of arrows upon the horde. This first wave of monsters falls under the relentless assault, but the humans' true target is their leader. A knight activates a powerful skill, his weapon glowing with fire, summoning a massive flame wall to halt their advance. Undeterred, the rat tribe's leader glares through the inferno. As the survivor explains, he used his last strength to escape, trying to stop the very humans who slaughtered his people. His terror is palpable, remembering their cold indifference, how the attackers simply left after taking what they wanted. Rain explains the rat tribe was seen as disposable. And Jihoon silently accepts there is no one to blame. His mind flashes back to being bullied in school, pressured by others who used his father's influence. He remembers the cold calculations of his classmates, a cruel reality that once left him utterly horrified. But now he understands that humans prioritize themselves. This vision continues with the humans ordering a massacre, their archers immediately targeting the rat tribe's leader. A volley of arrows rains down from the fortress walls. As a blonde commander watches without emotion, this tribe's leader is struck by countless shafts, yet even in death he channels their collective pain, transforming their will into a final, desperate attack, unleashing a blast of energy to make the humans remember. Jiun watches the distant battle in utter disbelief, as soldiers on the wall scream about a self-destruct. This Rat King is about to detonate at the gate, his final act a desperate plea for peace. But Sir Aries activates a skill to intervene, firing a beam of pure light into the blast, her flash strike cutting right through the chaos, leaving the Rat King to watch his sacrifice fail in frustration, and the explosion still erupts across the city. Jihoon's party hears the distant sound of battle, prompting Risel to explain the suicide rat tactic, a desperate strategy used by 6 waves of his people. Yet Jihoon learns an S-rank knight could handle the attack. This blast would only damage the outer walls anyway. Sir Aries is left to ponder the true meaning behind their sacrifice. Jihoon stands amidst the carnage, feeling their pain. His jaw clenches with a simmering, righteous fury. Learning the victims were mostly women and children, while their strongest warriors marched on the kingdom for revenge, he finally understands the truth behind the monster attacks. They were a direct result of insatiable human greed. A memory of a king's manipulative words echoes in his mind, forcing him to confront a choice he is glad he never made. And with a sigh of relief, his path becomes clear. Though his faction has changed, he will act for his own reasons, knowing the monster faction's goal is to destroy all humans. A vision of a loved one strengthens his resolve for his own benefit, so he turns to his companions to reveal his true plan. He explains his need to find the lizard tribe and build an army. As Rhea realizes the monster waves were a desperate response to slaughter, Jihoon declares his purpose over the fallen, to bring down the kingdom before all monsters are gone. For this, he needs the strength of his allies, and they arrive at a new settlement in a rocky valley. A foxwoman states that destroying the human faction is the only path. Sensing Jihoon's hostility toward humans matches their own, she recalls his unwavering will during the bandit boss fight, but points out that rallying just the lizard tribe is not enough. To defeat the humans, they need truly powerful monsters on their side. Her people in Warren watch their families get slaughtered, seeing friends die at the hands of human attackers. They were powerless to resist the onslaught until he came, this one who led them to victory and protected their home. So if destroying the kingdom is the only way to find peace, she pledges to gladly stand with him. Jihoon turns to Rhea, about to ask for her help, but she raises a hand, ready to volunteer, and Rain eagerly steps forward, vowing to help too. Her smile fades as she begins to explain her past, revealing her parents and brother were all killed. She always felt helpless, believing her tribe was too weak, a painful reality she had simply accepted, until she saw Jihoon punish a corrupt human chief. That single act of justice made her truly happy, inspiring her to follow him no matter how little she can contribute. Touched by her loyalty, Jihoon simply thanks her. He accepts their alliance, their goals aligned for different reasons. This cycle of violence is now clear to them all, and Rhea declares they will break this chain of hatred. As Jihoon resolves to bring true peace to this world, Jihoon begins to speak, his expression resolute, as the remaining rat folk step out from the shadows, pledging their loyalty to him amidst the carnage. This sudden offer leaves Jihoon momentarily stunned, learning they had been listening in from the start. Even their massive, intimidating new leader joins the cause, but Rain insists on treating the wounded survivors first. After 2 weeks, they give their fallen a proper farewell, a stark contrast to the humans who just burn bodies for profit. With time running out, Jihoon knows they must find the lizard tribe next, and so their new journey begins the very next day. He tasks the new rat tribe chief with a mission to find someone named Tor. Watching his party set off on their quest for more allies, this chief looks at the crude map, utterly bewildered, triggering a new quest to expand his monster forces. His standing with the monster faction rises again, and after leaving the rat tribe, they head for the lizard swamp. With Risel asleep on his head, Jihoon decides to try crossing the river. But he immediately starts flailing, unable to swim, panicking his companions. They drag him out, forcing the water from his lungs in a comical spray, and despite the detour, the journey continues under a clear sky, until they encounter a wild goblin in their path. Jihoon gives the creature a simple quest: find someone named Tor, and this small act of diplomacy earns him even more points. His quest leads him directly to the powerful Tor he was searching for, forging another alliance and boosting his reputation further, just as a massive slime appears on the trail. From a ridge, they see it as the king slime leading an army toward the kingdom, so Jihoon bravely stands in its path, trying to reason with the giant creature, only for the slime to begin absorbing him completely. This king slime reveals they were driven from their homes, forced out by humans, and now migrating for survival, their path leading them directly toward the kingdom's walls. After a long talk, Jihoon convinces them to take a safer route, earning a massive boost to his monster faction reputation. As the sun sets, the party is completely exhausted from their journey. Jihoon and Rhea can barely take another step, but Rain suddenly spots something in the distance. 2 distinct mountain peaks against the horizon. Standing on a cliff, they realize their destination is finally in sight, so Jihoon decides it is time to stop and eat. Rain eagerly sees this as her chance to contribute, pulling out fresh food she brought from Warren. Jihoon groans as she offers him more carrots, leaving him to wonder if there is anything else to eat in this forest. Rain offers Jihoon a handful of glowing berries, which he recognizes as wild strawberries. He pops one into his mouth, savoring the taste, overjoyed by a sweetness he has not had in ages. Rhea reveals she knew about the berry patch all along, but she prefers carrots and offers him a pan instead. Seeing an opportunity, Rain eagerly volunteers to cook for them, and soon a familiar, savory aroma fills the night air. She proudly presents a massive pot of bubbling stew, which Jihoon identifies as a delicious soybean paste soup. Rain beams with pride, happy to finally contribute to the group, but Jihoon suddenly shouts her name in alarm. She points behind her, terrified of something in the dark. Yet the scent of her cooking seems to draw it closer. Two massive orcs emerge from the shadows, drawn by the smell. Rain suddenly screams in terror, identifying an ogre, as a massive green hand reaches down for her, but it only offers a pile of carrots as a gift. Jihoon looks closer, noticing the creature is covered in wounds, and realizes two of them were drawn by their cooking. One of the ogres stares intently at the bubbling pot, while Rain cautiously approaches the towering beast. This creature sniffs the steam, confirming the delicious scent, then screams after foolishly touching the hot metal. Jihoon questions their intelligence, doubting their use as allies, as the two ogres simply sit down, demanding to be fed. His eye glows, activating a skill to analyze their strength, revealing they are both high-level B-rank monsters. With incredible power, one lifts the entire pot to drink, its joyful shout echoing through the forest to a hooded observer. A basket of apples spills across the forest floor, where a blond man tries to recruit a nearby ogre, extending the same invitation to a suspicious Rhea. But a hooded assailant suddenly strikes her down, forcing her to demand the identity of her attacker. Jihoon stares in shock, recognizing the pointed ears. Realizing their new foe is a dark elf, this elf gestures, preparing a dark magic spell, then lunges straight for the downed foxwoman, unleashing a skill called Darkness Restraint. His hand grabbing her as she cries out in confusion, leaving her body completely paralyzed and unable to move. But the elf's true target is revealed as he rushes past, charging directly at Jihoon, who activates his abyss slot. Catching the blade with a hand glowing with purple power, their blades clash in a burst of energy, and the elf senses immense power from Jihoon's weapon. Jihoon demands to know the reason for this unprovoked attack, his expression a mix of shock and confusion. With a firm grip, the attacker prepares his next move, both warriors squaring off for the next exchange. Steel rings out as their swords meet in a sharp parry, but Jihoon recognizes the elf's distinct fighting stance. A diagonal slash is coming, he realizes instantly, as his foe unleashes a powerful darkness cut. This wave of dark energy soars right past him, carving a deep gash into the earth behind them and splitting a giant rock completely in two. Jihoon pants on the ground, having barely dodged the blow, leaving the dark elf stunned that his attack was avoided. This dark elf accuses them of attacking the ogres, leaving Jihoon completely baffled by the claim, as he remembers the creatures were already wounded. This elf, however, points to their injuries as proof. Jihoon tries to explain the scream was from touching the hot pot, which only further enrages his accuser, so he asks the ogres directly for confirmation, hoping their simple answer will clear his name. But the elf rephrases the question, confusing them, accusing Jihoon of exploiting their low intelligence. With no patience for excuses, he lunges forward, their blades clashing in a flash of steel as dark energy swirls around Jihoon's determined face, his own blade now glowing with a sinister purple aura, forcing the elf back while pleading his innocence. Jihoon feels the feedback, a critical hit confirmed. As blood splatters across the forest floor, this dark elf clutches his wound, shocked by the attack's power, forcing him to consider using all his remaining magic. Meanwhile, Rhea is still trapped by the lingering restraint, and the elf suddenly appears behind Jihoon, grabbing him tight, unleashing another binding skill called Dark Bind. Rhea screams a warning, realizing he is using binding magic again, but the elf explains his village's rule of giving one chance. She demands he confess and asks the ogres for forgiveness, which is exactly what Jihoon has been trying to do, his eye glowing red, leaving the elf completely stunned by this turn of events. Denying the accusation, Jihoon brings his weapon down hard, striking the elf, now identified as Leo, to the ground. Leo cannot believe he let his guard down, utterly defeated. A memory flashes through the elf's mind, fueling his desperate, pained expression, as Rhea grabs his dagger-wielding arm, holding him hostage with a blade to his throat. Jihoon understands the skill was Darkness Restraint, a power that is less effective on higher-grade opponents. He recalls analyzing his own stats earlier, noting his strange focus on critical damage, but the most unusual part was his lack of a grade. This lack of information meant he avoided the worst, confirming his own grade must be a rank or higher, leaving the blonde man to ask Jihoon for their next move. This captive elf glares with sharp resolve, his mind drifting to a failed journey and his father. Back in the present, he demands they release his allies. Jihoon extends a hand, pleading for the elf's trust, insisting they never injured the ogres and offering to help find the true attacker together. Suddenly, a strange red icon flashes before them. As an armored foot steps into view, a voice asking if he has found them, turning Jihoon's head in startled confusion. A knight in full plate armor emerges, insulting the ogres, revealing a cruel smirk and a silver lip ring. Jihoon's eyes widen, recognizing that distinct jewelry, confirming the identity of this new, dangerous foe. A memory flashes of this knight slaughtering a tribe for a purple stone, this very same man clutching the gem with a wicked grin. His glowing eye identifies the man as the knight who massacred the rat tribe. This knight approaches, his human stats unreadable to Jiun. But a 3-star emblem on his shoulder hints at his rank. A system window reveals the knight's rank status, but Jiun realizes this man is not a mainstream character. This armored man questions the strange mix of races, his eyes narrowing as he focuses on one person. He spots Leo, identifying him as a dark elf, and the knight smirks, considering this a lucky hunt. When accused of raiding a village, he casually admits it, leaving Leo to watch as Jiun confronts the man. An ogre then points, asking if he is the one who wounded them, and the elf's face fills with shock at this new information. This knight just laughs, confirming his guilt, his bloodied gauntlet revealing the truth of his actions. Leo suddenly bows, admitting his grave misunderstanding, his expression hardening as he realizes who the true enemy is. In a flash, he lunges past Jiun to strike the knight. A white-haired elf shouts in realization, diving into an attack. Their bodies collide in a furious exchange of blows, while a gray-haired observer admits he cannot interfere despite being a rank. This elf's dagger is a low-grade E-rank weapon, a massive gear disadvantage. But the armored warrior effortlessly catches the blade, mocking the toy dagger, standing completely unfazed by the assault, realizing his blade cannot pierce the heavy plate. This elf changes his strategy midair, aiming for the only exposed flesh he can find, the neck. His blade finds its mark, drawing blood and an enraged slur from his opponent, who quickly grabs the elf's arm to halt the attack. Undeterred, the elf glares back with fierce resolve, only to receive a brutal punch to the face, sending the smaller warrior flying backward through the air. This armored man looks down, stunned by the exchange. Leo screams, thrown back by the armored man's punch, whose blade glints with cold, merciless intent, leaving Jiun and Rhea completely stunned by the sudden violence. This attacker grabs the elf midair, then brutally smashes him against his armored shoulder, leaving Leo dazed and bleeding from the impact. His captor's grip tightens, knuckles stained red, before slamming the elf into the dirt with a final, crushing blow. He admits to getting excited, calling his captive merchandise, a word that immediately catches Jihoon's attention, while Leo struggles to even speak on the ground. Pinned beneath the man's boot like a captured prize, this man's gaze then shifts to the nearby ogre, and finally to Rhea, dismissing her as low-value goods, before mentioning the popularity of monster shows to the group. This knight explains the market for exotic creatures, finding Jihoon's ignorance of monster shows suspicious. Jihoon finally places him, noting the change in his outfit, and with a wicked smile, the knight confirms he remembers our boy, identifying him as the legendary knight on a lucky hunt. He gloats over his prizes, ogres, a dark elf, and a human traitor, revealing a bounty placed on Jihoon by the king himself. As the knight declares them all prisoners, Jihoon draws his weapon, lunging forward with a powerful punch to the knight's jaw, this ground cracking under the force of his step. Unfazed, the man simply eyes the glowing purple sword, while Jihoon demands to know if this is the king's will. Grabbing him, the knight declares the king's command absolute, telling Jihoon to act evil to ease his own conscience. He then snatches a small, winged creature, calling the words fitting for a traitor. A flash of blue energy cuts through the air, striking the knight's arm, cracking his armor, revealing Rhea as the attacker, her claws glowing fiercely. Leo watches from the ground, still recovering from his wounds, while Jihoon considers how to get Rhea more combat experience. Quietly, he tells his dragon, Risel, to prepare a special skill. This knight just scoffs, calling them uncivilized performers, and begins gathering stones and earth around him. A powerful earth attribute skill Jihoon instantly recognizes. Furious about his damaged armor, the knight forms a massive fist, unleashing a devastating technique called Fist of Earth. This stone weapon crashes down, obliterating the landscape, aimed to pulverize everything beneath its immense weight. Jihoon notes the attack is powerful but slow, a bad match for Rhea's speed, but his expression shows there is another variable at play. Rhea knows a prolonged battle is a losing game, so she leaps from the treetops, a streak of blue light, challenging the knight and his massive stone fist head-on. Their powers collide in a devastating shockwave, but she is fast enough to land a vicious slash on his shoulder, leaving Leo stunned by the beastfolk's incredible power. A rabbit-eared girl offers to heal the wounded elf, admitting her small bit of magic is all she can offer. He watches, confused, as she tends to his wounds, while Rhea's glowing claws tear into the knight's armor again. Another brutal strike lands squarely across his chest, her blinding speed even impressing the nearby ogre. Jihoon understands her B-rank skills are bridging the power gap, but he knows her transformation has a time limit, and the knight prepares another crushing blow. Rhea's face contorts with rage and shock, as she is violently thrown against a tree, crashing hard and slumping to the ground, her consciousness fading as she accepts her fate. Meanwhile, Jihoon calculates his next move, knowing a misstep could endanger Rhea further, but decides the risk is worth it to save his friend. This armored knight stands his ground unimpressed, leaving Jihoon utterly confused by his inaction, because Leo has risen, placing himself before Rhea. This knight warns him to move or be destroyed, but the dark elf refuses to yield, ready to die for his new allies. With a defiant roar, he lunges forward again, his dagger aimed straight for the knight's chest, only for the blade to be caught effortlessly by the mocking warrior. This knight delivers a crushing kick with his stone-clad foot, mocking the elf's foolishness while pinning him to the ground. then turns to Rhea, declaring beasts must be taught their place. Suddenly, a blade sinks deep into the warrior's side, an attack that leaves Jiun wondering why Leo would be so reckless. Enraged, the knight grabs the elf by the throat, calling him a barbaric creature incapable of understanding words. As his life fades, Leo's eyes burn with regret and defiance, remembering a promise that his magic power would one day grow, but also the shame of being weaker than a child, and the vow he made to his father to return stronger. Choked and helpless, he can only apologize for his failure, until Jiun calls out to him from a distance, sending a new weapon flying through the air, a dagger offered to the disarmed and desperate elf. Leo is pushed back, but his dagger begins to glow with immense power. A sudden surge of magic overflows from the elf, shocking him and catching the knight completely off guard. All that power channeling directly into the E-rank blade, finally piercing the knight's impenetrable armor, leaving the warrior stunned for a brief moment before he erupts into laughter, mocking the pathetic attack. From the sidelines, Jiun analyzes the situation, then moves in a diagonal blur of motion as Leo lets out a final desperate roar. His eyes glowing with pure, unbridled energy, he unleashes a devastating skill, Dark Slash, a wave of dark magic tearing through the air, carving a path of destruction through the forest. But the rabbit-eared girl points in horror at Rhea's still form. Jiun and Risel stare in utter disbelief as the dust settles from a devastating attack, leaving the knight's armor completely shattered. He stumbles backward through a newly carved trench, and Jiun notes the incredible surge in power. Leo reveals he is the one behind the devastating blow, taking a steady step toward his defeated foe. His new, glowing purple sword hums with energy, a gift whose true potential is finally unlocked. Meanwhile, the ogre chief orders the wounded to be treated, while the knight groans about losing to inferior races. But Jiun cuts him off, ready for an interrogation. He presses his blade to the man's throat, demanding answers now. His first question concerning the state of the kingdom. A clear threat is made, lie and face the consequences. Jiun stands over his captive, his expression cold and calculating, beginning an interrogation about the kingdom's total forces. He then asks about the roaming subjugation force, demanding to know their true purpose. Under the threat of a blade, the knight starts to explain, revealing a direct order from the king himself, a command to find powerful weapons at any cost. Their mission is to raid the land for enhancement stones and ore, and Jiun realizes this is all too familiar. It is just like the game's adventure mode for gathering materials. So he moves on, asking about two elite knights, Aries and Rib. He wants to know not their level, but how many skills they possess, a key indicator of a player's power progression. This captive confirms they both use only 2 skills, leading Jiun to smirk, knowing they are under level 20. This rabbit girl asks if Jiun is truly targeting the kingdom, while the ogre chief scoffs at the very idea of it being possible. He points out that 2 elite knights defend the walls, but the captive warrior smirks, correcting their assumption. There are not just 2 elite knights, he reveals with a grin. Jiun is stunned by this unexpected information, remembering the game allowed a maximum of 7 elite knights. This world is progressing far faster than the game's early waves, as the knight names 2 more, bringing the known total to 4. Our boy's mind races with the implications of this new threat. He knows that in reality, unlike the game, damage is permanent. So how could the kingdom wage war so frequently? A memory surfaces of a system instantly repairing the walls, and another healing the wounded soldiers in an instant. This kingdom possesses some kind of advanced healing technology. This knight reveals the kingdom has mass healing capabilities, restoring entire platoons of soldiers in an instant, making them feel stronger than ever before. This power comes from a healer bombardier named Acker, and with Sage Archeo and 4 S-rank knights, their forces are immense. Jiun realizes the kingdom sees this as an impossible war, but for him it is a single-player raid of hellish difficulty. He points out the knight's shock, enjoying his captive's fear. Before asking one final, crucial question about the game's lore, Jiun demands to know what the legendary knight truly is and how he was summoned. As the knight begins to answer, a strange light appears in the sky, and Jiun tightens his grip on his weapon, sensing danger. Then suddenly throws his blade with deadly intent. More lights appear in the sky above them, as the captive knight is suddenly yanked into the air by an unseen force. Suddenly, the rabbit girl spots a massive group of humans, an elite squad of royal knights emerging from the forest, but the captive knight just smirks, saying he is too late. Using a regeneration skill, his stone arm begins to reform, and he rises, refusing to give up any more intel. His threat is clear: everyone who heard him will die here. Jiun calmly reveals he knows about the 100 soldiers, a warning that the entire force will swarm them if he is not back soon. With Risel at his side, Jiun simply says he was waiting. This knight calls his bluff, assuming the others are weaklings. From across the chasm, Jiun asks a simple question, because to him they are all just experience points. This strange term leaves the knight utterly confused. So Jiun points, telling Risel it is finally his turn. This warrior just laughs, mocking the tiny dragon's potential. An entire squad of knights charges, ordered to capture them, but Risel prepares to unleash his dragon breath, and Jiun gives the simple command to fire. A devastating beam of energy engulfs the charging soldiers, its power boosted by a massive 500% increase, vaporizing a knight who can only scream in disbelief. This blast tears through the forest, ignoring their stat buffs, leaving the rabbit girl and Leo completely stunned. Even the ogres stare in utter disbelief, While a recovering Rhea watches the destruction, all that remains of the enemy force is a massive trench, an attack that completely drains Risel of his magic. So Jiun praises his exhausted dragon for a job well done. He reflects on the outcome of the battle, checking their levels and noting the weak experience gain. Jiun surveys the trench filled with a massive harvest. But his eyes catch something unexpected in the dirt. A single glowing purple stone stands out from the rest, and he realizes the enhancement stone survived the dragon's breath. With the battle over, he orders everyone to collect the spoils, then checks the party's shared experience distribution. Risel and Rhea gained several levels from the fight, and his dragon has even unlocked a brand new skill. Jiun is utterly shocked by the skill's description. Meanwhile, an unexpected change is brewing in Warren. A powerful axe strikes a tree with immense force. As a horned warrior fells it in a single blow, he suddenly senses a surge of unfamiliar power, as countless rat-like creatures swarm through the undergrowth, and an entire army emerges from the forest to face him. Leo confronts Jiun, stating there is unfinished business. Questioning why our boy fought with such desperation, he notes how Jiun even shielded Rhea to protect the ogres. And the Dark Elf offers a sincere apology for his actions. After taking the ogres to the sea, he plans to depart, but quietly admits his own profound weakness. A flashback revealing his magic power never grew. This recent battle, however, has changed everything. Now he believes he has found a path to true strength, until Jiun suddenly appears asking about his magic, correctly guessing his reserves are dangerously low. Stunned, Leo demands to know how he could possibly know that. And Jiun simply calls it a unique special ability. This elf accepts the explanation, feeling completely exposed. Jiun then presents the sword, asking about its power surge. This dark elf recognizes the weapon's immense power, noting he has seen magic-imbued items before, but never one of this incredible caliber. So Jiun makes a surprising offer, asking the elf to fight alongside him. This warrior hesitates, citing his people's isolationist ways. But Jiun presses, asking if he wants to be stronger. He points out the elf's unique imbalance of power, and the warrior reluctantly admits the truth. His low magic has made him an outcast among his own kind. Jiun sees a simple solution to the problem, promising to help him overcome this weakness. He reveals a B-rank enhancement stone, a tool for growth, and attempts to upgrade the dagger on the spot. But the enhancement fails, shattering the stone to dust. A sudden flash of red light marks the start of a memory. As Leo marvels at the power of his newly enhanced sword, Jiun offers to maximize his strength through weapon enhancement, a tempting proposition for the defeated warrior. Leo considers the offer with a tense silence. Understanding this is less a contract and more a submission, he agrees to serve for 10 years and not a moment longer. With a confident smile, Jiun accepts the temporary alliance. But the elf's sudden power surge leaves him feeling uneasy. Standing on the cliffside, they formally seal their pact. A system notification confirms a new follower has been gained, bringing Jiun back to the present, surrounded by his new allies. He recalls a strange detail from their earlier encounter, much to the blushing embarrassment of the powerful elf. That night, their bond is forged over a shared meal and a common enemy. Tallying the spoils, Jiun finds a wealth of high-grade stones and discovers a rare-grade stone among the loot. He then offers the special stone to the rabbit girl, who recognizes it as the strange black stone from before, while Jiun calmly encourages her to use its power. As she uses it, a brilliant red light floods the campsite, successfully upgrading her rank to C, though her level adjusts down, and the rabbit girl feels a surge of incredible new power. So Jiun decides to push her potential even further, unleashing a second, even more powerful blast of light into the night sky. This next morning, the group heads toward the lizard tribe's swamp. Meanwhile, Leo guides the ogres along a stream, leading them toward the sea, part of a larger plan to recruit the lizard tribe for the journey to Warren. After days of walking, Jiun is exhausted, much to Leo's amusement. So our boy complains about the elf's complicated name. This rabbit girl points out the path, a shortcut she has found. But their destination is a gloomy, mist-shrouded forest. Jiun explains their goal is to rally the lizard tribe, a race so strong they will not easily submit to anyone, and he teases Leo, comparing their pride to the elves. With a confident smile, Jiun says he has a plan, recalling the specific lizardman lore from his game knowledge. He is certain this information is the key to an alliance. Suddenly, a massive, clawed foot steps into their path, splashing down into the murky swamp water below. This ogres immediately begin to sink, causing Leo to panic. As both giants get hopelessly stuck in the mire, Jiun calmly tells them to stop, explaining their weight is the problem, revealing this was his calculated move to get noticed. Just then, a powerful warrior appears, introducing himself as Rainak of the lizard tribe. This beast girl identifies a new arrival as a lizard tribe member, who reveals their destination is his tribe's hidden village. He warns Jiun that outsiders are not welcome there, but our boy simply smirks, stating great rewards require risk. This warrior asks for the reason behind this dangerous journey, and Jiun boldly declares his plan to attack the kingdom. This lizardman understands, having seen humanity's cruelty firsthand, noting the strange alliance of races gathered for this war. Suddenly, Risel the dragon makes a dramatic entrance, and Jiun introduces the tiny creature as his friend. This little dragon is already fast asleep on his head, a sight the lizard warrior quietly accepts. He He reveals today is the chief's birthday, making their task harder, warning that this young chief demands proof of strength. Jiun listens intently, preparing for the challenge ahead. A lizardman elder offers to take the ogres, leaving Jiun and his party to continue their journey. Leo questions trusting a stranger so easily, but Jiun reveals the elder has high favorability toward him. This unique skill shows a rating of 80. Meanwhile, the elder lectures the ogres on caution, before admitting he is actually quite hungry himself. This ogres agree, excited for a meal in Mudrak. Thick fog makes their journey difficult to see. As Jihoon's party follows the path to the lizard tribe's village, they arrive at an eerily deserted entrance, and the blue-haired girl suggests they look around. This rabbit girl worries about entering without permission. But Jihoon insists they must find the chief. Leo remains skeptical, wondering how they will persuade anyone. This beast girl declares her absolute trust in Jihoon's plans, prompting Leo to tease her about having a crush. Suddenly, Jihoon halts, hearing a strange noise in the distance. He closes his eyes, focusing on the sound, a rhythmic thumping that echoes through the empty village. Our boy pinpoints the source of the disturbance, pointing toward a shadowy figure on a rooftop. His companions cry out his name in warning, as his eyes widen at the approaching threat. A blue lizardman crashes down from above, spear first. Stunned, Jihoon recognizes a member of the lizard tribe, a powerful soldier now standing before them. Leo instantly leaps forward, magic flaring to protect his leader. While the beast girl joins the fray, defending Jihoon fiercely, he tries to de-escalate, calling out to his ally Rhea. A sudden threat puts Leo on the defensive. And the rabbit girl lunges at a lizard warrior, her blade clashing against his tough hide. But Jihoon shouts in the monster tongue, halting the attack. This lizardman's spear disarms her instantly, leaving the party completely outmatched. Jihoon calmly tries to de-escalate the situation, explaining their only goal is to meet the chief. His words, however, are met with heavy chains, as the lizardman declares them invaders, not guests. Now prisoners, Jihoon remains surprisingly composed. His special ability analyzing their captors, revealing even the weakest guards are B rank. This warrior mocks their timing, arriving during a celebration, and Jihoon finally sees what they have walked into. They arrive at a massive, blood-soaked arena, where Jihoon spots a familiar sight in the ring. A kingdom knight bloodied and overwhelmed. This blonde warrior scrambles away from a brutal attack, his face a mask of desperate defiance. His lizardman opponent leaps high for the finishing blow, leaving Jihoon to wonder why a human is even here. This lizard warrior stands victorious over the fallen knight. As the crowd celebrates the birthday of their chief Lurak, a defeated combatant kneels before the red-skinned chief, who casually picks up a massive fish for his meal. With a roar, he calls for the next match to begin, revealing more human prisoners await their turn in the ring. Among them is a terrified girl trying to stand her ground. Just as a guard announces the capture of new intruders, Jihoon's party, a lizard guard halts their progress, leading them in chains to the throne room, where a cloaked lizardman warns them of their trespass. He demands to know their purpose for coming here, and Jihoon quickly sizes up their impressive military strength. But the soldiers are nothing compared to the chief himself, an S-rank warrior named Lurak, radiating immense power. This chief demands an answer for their intrusion. And Jihoon takes a breath before speaking, boldly stating they need the tribe's strength. This request is met with a silent, intimidating glare before the chief erupts into mocking laughter. His warriors join in, ridiculing the small group, which infuriates the blue-haired girl until Leo stops her. He calmly explains that the real negotiations have just begun. Leo understands they are betting their very lives, while the chief scoffs at their simple request for strength. But Jihoon knows he must stand firm now, recalling a bitter past where weakness meant submission. Believing this world follows the game's hidden rules, he makes a shocking demand for the tribe to follow him. This bold declaration echoes through the silent arena, enraging a lizardman guard who steps forward in fury. His own party looks on in absolute disbelief, as the guard calls for their immediate execution. Jihoon, however, remains perfectly calm and composed. Catching the thoughtful gaze of the tribe's chief, Lurak raises a hand, ordering his warriors to stand down, stating his rule is absolute because he is the strongest. He then poses a critical question about true leadership. This chief's head lowers in silent contemplation, while a furious guard calls Jihoon an arrogant brat, but our boy simply utters a single name, Risel Drake. Lurak's eye widens, questioning the word Drake, and Jihoon confirms it is the dragon on his head. He reveals a critical piece of lore: the lizard tribe worships dragons. Jihoon declares this tiny creature is the very being they revere, and a hush falls over the sacred arena. This chief stares, struggling to believe his eyes. As Jihoon shouts that a real dragon is before them, murmurs erupt through the crowd. A legendary species has appeared. Leo reminds the beast girl of Risel's earlier display of power, recalling the devastating beam of energy from before. He explains that dragons were thought to be extinct for a century, known only through legends of giant fire-breathing beasts. Leo expresses his doubt about the tiny creature, but the chief falls into a thoughtful silence, explaining his tribe worships dragons as an absolute rule, before declaring Risel is not a real dragon at all. Furious at the deception, Lurak orders his warriors to attack, and the entire tribe roars for their execution. With a spear at his throat, Jihoon remains unfazed, questioning if the chief truly cannot recognize a dragon, or if he is simply pretending out of ignorance. This bold challenge gives the chief a new idea, declaring Jihoon's party will replace the remaining condemned prisoners. A lizard warrior calls for the other prisoners to be brought forth, revealing a group of captured human knights. This chief explains they invaded Mudrak and stole sacred treasures, and even murdered one of their young warriors in the process. This chief issues a single, brutal command: fight. With a clatter, their chains are thrown to the ground. Revealing the grim terms of this deathmatch, winners live. A cloaked official tosses something toward the human knight, which splashes into the arena's murky water. Leo watches in disbelief, his expression hardening, but Jihoon silences his protest, reminding him intruders have no choice. His elf companion looks on, still unconvinced, while Jihoon promises to prove his plan will work. Lurek watches them, intrigued by the mention of a dragon's power, and Jihoon's dragon breath skill is ready to activate. A pile of weapons is dropped before the prisoners, giving the human knight a glimmer of hope for survival. This blue-haired girl cannot bear to watch the suffering, but Jihoon's attention is fixed on that very knight. This lead human knight volunteers, dismissing Jihoon's party as weak, and he arrogantly calls for an opponent from the savage tribe. This blatant disrespect infuriates the blue-haired girl. As the rules for the deathmatch are laid out, a one-on-one duel, Jihoon translates for his party: victory means survival. His analysis reveals this knight is the weakest of the prisoners, prompting him to ask the timid rabbit girl, Rain, to fight. He encourages her to finally trust her own strength, sparking a memory of when he first shared his power with her. That moment changed everything for Rain, who realizes she can no longer be just a porter. With newfound determination, she accepts the challenge. This arena is immediately cleared for the combatants, forcing Jihoon and the others to the edge of the ring. Meanwhile, the cloaked official reminds Lurek of their absolute rule: follow the dragon's choice. Jihoon knows he has two ways to prove Risel's identity, but he sees this fight as a chance for Rain to learn. This blonde knight stares in disbelief at his opponent, a terrified rabbit girl who can barely even speak. He scoffs at fighting one of the weakest races, seeing no honor in the match, and as the battle begins, the arena falls silent. Channeling lightning, the warrior vows to end it in a single strike, unleashing his thunder strike sword style from above, leaving the rabbit girl to face the attack head-on. His super electric slash cuts through the air, crashing down with immense electrical force. Jihoon watches the blast, thinking of Rain, and how her old self would have been in real danger from that attack. He compares her new strength to someone named Rhea, just as the rabbit girl surrenders, overwhelmed by the B-rank knight. This rabbit girl panics, convinced she cannot beat the human, while the enraged knight charges his blade, furious at the shame. But a sudden resolve hardens her expression. As he leaps forward, mocking her for being just a rabbit, her newfound courage vanishes in a moment of pure terror. Flashing back to Jihoon's words of encouragement to trust her strength, and she realizes she cannot keep running away forever. A traumatic memory surfaces of her past helplessness, fueling her decision to finally stop and fight back. This knight's eyes widen in surprise at her sudden defiance, just as a burst of sparks erupts between them. Jihoon watches in shock, realizing Rain has a new skill, and her flaming foot intercepts the knight's sword, leaving her opponent screaming her name in disbelief. As she unleashes a powerful new ability, Bunny Blaze, a massive explosion of power erupts in the arena, leaving Jihoon's entire party completely stunned. He admits his plan was to intervene to prove Risel's power, never expecting the rabbit girl could actually win on her own. Her knight opponent cries out, defeated amidst the smoke, taken down by a strange, fiery summoned creature. This pink-haired girl, Rain, stares in disbelief at her own strength, her thoughts turning to the one she calls village chief. With a triumphant cheer, she celebrates her victory, earning a proud thumbs up from Jihoon himself. He declares her the strongest of her kind in the world, and the newly B-rank warrior is overcome with joy. Leo watches quietly, noting she barely even trained for this, recalling a time when she was much weaker and more timid. He realizes Jihoon can empower others, glad he chose to follow him. An announcer declares the rabbit beastfolk victorious, but the defeated knight refuses to accept his fate. From the prisoner group, a new female knight steps forward, declaring she can no longer hold herself back. A blue lizard warrior calls for the next human fighter, and the woman immediately enters the ring to face him. Lurek stares, surprised by her sudden eagerness. Leo watches from the side, noting her incredible speed, and realizes he recognizes this woman from somewhere. A system window reveals her name, Calhara, and a rank knight. She claims to have hit her limit with all the pain, but her expression twists into a sadistic grin, wanting more. Her profile reveals a love for domination and causing pain, as she ignores her opponent and points her sword elsewhere, calling out directly to Jihoon, asking if he is the leader. A blue-haired knight with a lightning sword issues a challenge, her voice echoing across the vast, rocky arena, and the beast girl glares, wondering why she is staring at Jihoon. Jihoon confirms her intent: she wants to fight him. With a steely gaze, he accepts her challenge to face him, knowing his opponent is Calhara, a fully equipped rank knight, a warrior in a class of her own, even among the elite. Still, he is confident she cannot survive a close-range dragon's breath. His only goal is to counter her speed with his own durability. With massive experience points on the line, he decides it is worth the risk, and the knight smirks, promising the crowd twice the entertainment. Jihoon asks to borrow a sword, but his elf companion warns him of the danger, and now armed, Jihoon simply replies that he knows. Atop his head, the tiny dragon waits for the command. While the lizard chief watches on, his thoughts returning to dragons. A flashback reveals Lurak's childhood lesson. He was taught that dragons granted his tribe their strength, an ancient belief carved into their very home. But in the present, Lurak scoffs at the unfolding scene. Jiun now faces the next human knight, setting a condition, asking what happens if any lizardfolk spectators get hurt. Lurak dismisses the question, ordering the match to begin, and his opponent, a blue-haired knight, smiles with cruel intent, imagining all the brutal ways she could end him. She lets out a small, confident laugh. As she finally decides on her method of attack, Leo watches from the sidelines, noting her strange stance, just as she unleashes a powerful lightning ability, a technique Leo recognizes with utter disbelief. This spear of lightning flies past Jiun, striking the lizardfolk guards. Leo recognizes the deadly lightning-charged sword technique. This lizard warriors watch in awe at the powerful display, but his gaze snaps to Jiun in utter disbelief. This lightning attack has somehow missed Jiun entirely, and Leo realizes our boy did not even move an inch. A single cut appears on his cheek, a smirk on his face. This attacker, a blue-haired woman, senses something is off, accusing Jiun of knowing she'd intentionally miss. Our boy stares back, his expression cold and unyielding, as she is revealed as the vice-captain of the 4th Division Cancer Knights, a fearsome warrior named Calhara. Known by a far more sinister title, the Seizure Spectator. Her combat style is infamously cruel, torturing opponents to death, and a lizard warrior stares at the hole burned clean through his shield, while a wicked smile spreads across Calhara's face as she gets an idea. Calhara smirks, threatening to swat the tiny dragon first, and Jihoon's eyes widen in a flash of protective fury. Her grin widens, confirming she has found his weakness. With a crackle of energy, she unleashes her lightning whip, forcing Jihoon to leap back from the searing attack. Leo observes that without ranged magic, Jihoon is at a huge disadvantage, and our boy tells Risel to stay close as he dodges wildly. His speed is no match for her relentless assault, leaving a direct charge as his only remaining option. Calhara waits with a cruel smile, eager to watch him suffer. He rushes forward as she activates her skill, Yellow Current. An electrical circle forms on the arena floor, trapping him inside, and Jihoon realizes his mistake just a moment too late. A massive pillar of lightning erupts from the ground, engulfing him in a torrent of pure electrical energy. This elf companion screams Jihoon's name in terror, as raw electricity surges through his veins, forcing a scream of pure agony from his lips. His torment brings a sadistic smile to Calhara's face. And Leo understands her cruel tactic, torture him to the brink of collapse. This next phase of her attack promises even greater pain, but Jihoon grits his teeth, enduring every agonizing second. She taunts him, demanding he describe the feeling of his body breaking down. A flicker of surprise crosses her face, realizing he has lasted 10 full seconds. Through the pain, a defiant grin spreads across Jihoon's face, revealing her own magic power is rapidly draining with each passing moment. Her previous attacks having already taken a significant toll, and he just needs to endure for 11 more seconds, just as her ability finally gives out. Calhara glares, annoyed by his defiant expression. With his eyes hidden, Jihoon declares she will learn what pain is, a lesson he intends to teach her personally. This tiny dragon unleashes dragon's breath, negating all magic. From the sidelines, Rain can only watch in disbelief, as a crimson beam erupts, engulfing Calhara completely. She is engulfed in the attack, experiencing true agony. Her sadistic grin vanishes, replaced by a scream of pure hatred. This attack manifests as a monstrous red creature, and Lurak stares in shock, recalling a legend of saviors, a flashback to his youth, learning of the dragon's gift, and the promise that he would inherit that very same power. Back in the present, his people watch the devastation, while Jihoon sits calmly amidst the smoke and ruin. This lizard chief turns his stunned gaze to Jihoon himself. Realizing the boy wields the legendary dragon's breath, Lurak doubts the tiny creature could wield the power of the elite, but Leo tells Jihoon the only one here with dragon's breath is their chief, this powerful lizard warrior Lurak himself. Jihoon declares he will show them all who they should truly serve, activating his own dragon's breath skill. As a dark power begins to gather over the arena, he calls out a single name, Risel Drake. This tiny dragon's eye glows with immense power, erupting in a colossal pillar of red and black energy. From across the valley, other tribes witness the terrifying display. As an elder lizard folk whispers that the legend has awakened, a massive draconic form emerges from the smoke, leaving the lizard folk warriors staring in absolute reverence. Everyone, from the knights to his own party, is stunned into silence, as the fully grown Risel stands before them, tears streaming down his face. A system window reveals the skill, Dragon Blood Awakening. Jihoon recognizes him as the legendary Wave 99 boss, Risel Drake. This dragon's eyes burn with terrifying, absolute power. Lurak, the lizard chief, stares in utter disbelief, declaring Risel the scaled legend, the true dragon of his people. Without hesitation, the chief drops to his knee, and Jihoon watches as the pledge begins, swearing loyalty to him as the new lord of the lizard folk. All the lizard warriors immediately follow their leader's example, an entire army now bowing before the great dragon. Leo can only watch, stunned that Jihoon united the tribe. A satisfied smirk crosses Jihoon's face, his plan a success, finally gaining the power to stand on equal ground with the king. Even his elf companion struggles against the sheer force of Risel's wings, and as the great beast takes flight, legend becomes reality. Jihoon declares that from now on, he will forge a new legend in this world. His will and Risel's now perfectly aligned. A sudden memory flashes through Jihoon's mind, recalling the 99th wave and a tiny dot atop his dragon, a detail he now realizes was a person's silhouette. Back in the present, the smoke clears from the arena, and Jihoon looks up in horror as Risel plummets from the sky, his dragon reverting to his tiny form mid-fall. Jihoon stumbles back, catching his companion with his face, praising the little dragon for a job well done. This skill's short duration was far shorter than he expected, but the display was enough to recruit hundreds of new followers, completing his main quest to expand his monster forces, and with the goal so thoroughly exceeded, he earns a special reward. Amidst the smoke, Risel deflates with a sudden pop, leaving behind a rare rank upgrade stone. At that moment, a system window appears before Jihoon. Announcing his existence will be decided now that he is level 10. He is defined as a being between human and monster, one who manifests the power of the dead as a soulbinder. His new status screen confirms his S-rank class, and the scene shifts to a massive celebration in the lizardfolk village where warriors and citizens feast together. Lurak himself welcomes them as honored guests, and Jihoon immediately starts devouring the food, much to the surprise of his companions, who quickly admit they are just as hungry. Soon, the entire party rushes to join the feast, enjoying the hospitality under the evening sky. After a massive feast, the bones are all that remain, and Rain asks where Risel is with Jihoon pointing to the temple. But our boy seems completely baffled by the word. Two lizardfolk attendants bow reverently toward their new god, a sight that leaves Jihoon completely stunned. Risel is being treated like absolute royalty, leading Rain to note their new status as mere honored guests. But Jihoon cryptically declares that he and Risel are one and the same. As his fox-eared companion sleeps, he decides they will rest for the night, though the chief senses they are being watched by an unseen foe. Elsewhere, a bloodied knight stumbles through the darkness, determined to deliver an urgent report, his approach spotted by guards atop a fortress wall, who realize the legendary knight is gathering monsters. This wounded messenger struggles just to stay on his feet. Pushing onward, the knight is determined to report what he saw, and from the fortress walls, guards finally spot his approach, recognizing him as the legendary knight rumored to be gathering monsters. Elsewhere, a group of people arrives at a kingdom by sea, but they are immediately chained and marched through the city streets, their fates resting entirely in the hands of the king. A wanted poster on the wall reveals a familiar face. From the castle, a cruel decree is issued: hang them all. Inside the throne room, the survivors plead for mercy, just as the knight from the swamp is brought before the court. A noblewoman recognizes the man as Lord Acker, questioning why he is the only one to return from his mission. He confesses his entire unit was annihilated by a single attack, an attack from a flying creature summoned by the true legendary knight, a report that leaves the king seething with rage. This messenger reveals he overheard a dangerous plot, spying on Jihoon's party as they gathered their forces, a plan to launch a full-scale attack on the kingdom. This news sends the royal guards into a state of crisis, and a royal official demands to know Jihoon's current location. This messenger reports he was heading for the Fox Den, a destination that catches the king's immediate attention. Under immense pressure, the man struggles to speak. When a chained prisoner suddenly shouts he knows the hideout, this king listens, his expression unreadable, before ordering every elite knight to assemble at once. He declares the formation of a special subjugation force, an order that echoes through the castle halls. One guard smirks, eager for revenge against his brother's killer, as a new warning to stay alert is issued. A knight reports to Sir Aries on the fortress wall, who receives a sudden royal decree. Another knight summons Sir Euros from his training, while a third interrupts a warrior's time with 2 children. Even the artist Bianchi is called as the king summons all elites. This painter seems reluctant to answer the call to war, and elsewhere a guard demands an audience with Lord Cancer, who permits him to enter a steam-filled chamber. This guard stammers, trying to explain his purpose, but the woman in the mist already knows something has happened. Back with Jihoon's party, he decides to head out for a bit, with Rain immediately volunteering to join him, claiming she just needs some fresh air away from the swamp. He then asks Rhea, who also agrees to come along, now sporting a new outfit provided by the humans. Jihoon compliments his new prisoner's attire, leaving her flustered, but he quickly reminds her of her status, silencing her questions. They arrive at a makeshift prison where a guard nervously greets Lord Jihoon, and our boy realizes his name is already known among the lizard folk. From inside the cell, Calhara makes a simple request, and Jihoon agrees to escort her, checking on the other captives. He notes she is still alive, earning a quiet thank you from Leo. Though Jihoon just shrugs it off as a basic necessity, he tells her to just find a spot nearby as there are no facilities. Creating an awkward moment between the three of them, Jihoon calls out to her using the name Rhea, and she questions why he was watching her so intently. Promising not to escape, she asks for a moment of privacy, just as a lizardfolk guard questions his lenient treatment of prisoners. Jihoon explains his strategy: kindness will lower their guard. He explains the knights are valuable nobles, too useful to execute, and Rain realizes his kindness was purely tactical. As Jihoon denies any personal feelings, a snake slithers past his feet, followed by the sudden clatter of a helmet hitting the ground. Our boy stares in complete disbelief at the sight. As the prisoner Rhea is revealed to be a woman, he quickly pieces together her cross-dressing and voice-modulating helmet, Elsewhere, an elf named Lord Bell is praised for his kindness, though he blushes, claiming he is just keeping a promise. His calm demeanor suddenly shatters, as he spots a mysterious silhouette watching from the mist. Back in the lizardfolk village, Jiun confronts Chief Lurak, insisting they must obey the will of their new dragon god. He reminds the chief of the humans' brutal invasion and slaughter, demanding to know why he is hesitating to fight back. Lurak insists they do not fear battle, but as Jiun questions their hesitation, a commotion erupts outside. A guard shouts for an intruder to halt, stunned by who it is. Our boy deduces there is only one reason for this delay. Just as a new lizardfolk appears in the doorway, a supposed exile. This chief recognizes the newcomer, demanding to know why Rainak is here, and Rain reveals he is the tribe's former leader. Jiun remembers seeing two S-ranks among the lizardfolk. Learning the loser of their ritual combat for chief is exiled. With a confident smirk, Rainak declares he is here to challenge for the title, a sudden development that leaves Jiun completely shocked. These two rivals now face each other in an arena to settle the score. Jiun sees this as a perfect chance to gauge their true strength. While Lurak prepares for a battle with no mercy, activating a skill, his eyes glowing with a terrifying green energy, a red lizardfolk warrior roars, undergoing an ancient ascension, promising to demonstrate the strength of the ancient world. Chief Lurak confronts an exile, reminding him that losers of the leadership duel are banished. This challenger smirks, declaring his intent to take the throne, a sudden development that leaves Jiun completely stunned. And just like that, the duel for leadership is set to begin. Our boy sees a perfect opportunity to gauge their true combat power, but an emergency quest pops up as he notices a lizardfolk in priest robes. This priest begins a count, walking along the arena's edge, revealing several more are forming a barrier around them. A necessary ritual, he explains, to protect the village from destruction. A sudden realization then dawns on Jiun. He recalls being told that only one person there can use dragon's breath, and that person is none other than Chief Lurak himself. He then remembers something else. Two new members were added to his party. This elder, Rainak, stands apart, not yet an official ally, which means his battle against the S-rank Lurak is a chance for exp. Lurak confronts the old warrior, declaring he should be ashamed. He warns there is no mercy for those who forget their place, activating a primordial mutation. His eyes blaze with a terrifying green light, and with a mighty roar he begins to transform. But the elder simply vows to show the strength of adaptation, unleashing his own massive dinosaur form behind a strange barrier. Jiun immediately recognizes the hexagonal energy field, noting how it even contains the smoke from the transformation. This awakening is far more intense than anything he has ever seen, leaving our boy completely stunned by the display. In the arena, two colossal beasts now face each other, ready for battle. Lurak's transformed body shakes the very ground he stands on, and with a final, earth-shattering roar, the two titans charge. These two titans collide in a brutal headbutt, but Rainak is immediately thrown back, roaring in shock. As Lurak's powerful tail whips around for another strike, a defensive barrier shatters around the elder lizardfolk, who finds himself completely at the chief's mercy. Their eyes blaze with power, a contest of raw physical reinforcement. Lurak then raises a massive claw to end the fight, slamming his rival into the stone floor with crushing force. Jiun watches in disbelief as the chief completely overwhelms his opponent, realizing Lurak's higher level gives him a huge physical advantage. His own analytical eye activates, searching for a weakness, discovering Rainak's only superior stat is magic attack power. Pinned to the ground, the elder unleashes that very power, engulfing the arena in a blinding flash of energy. And when the smoke begins to clear, Lurak remains standing. Rainak acknowledges that Lurak has grown much stronger, but the Red Chief remains silent, his gaze intense. This exile explains his journey after losing the duel, venturing beyond the swamp, where the harsh sun of the outside world burned his skin. He reveals this new environment dulled his senses, a weakness that makes Jiun realize their critical flaw. Rainak insists they can adapt, but Lurak refuses to abandon their home, arguing that not everyone can survive the dangers outside. As chief, he cannot risk his warriors' lives on a careless decision. But the challenger questions the true purpose of their dragon-given power, suggesting it was meant for more than just self-defense. A quick flashback shows how the dragons once saved their people, inspiring a child to ask if it is now their turn to save others. Lurak dismisses the sentiment, stating the chieftain's word is final, and demands Rainak prove his conviction with strength. Inside the arena, the two lizardfolk titans face off, their auras flaring, while Rain watches the duel with rapt attention from the sidelines. Both beasts begin charging devastating energy blasts in their jaws, unleashing two colossal beams that collide in a blinding flash. Jiun and Rain can only stare, utterly shocked by the raw power on display, as the clashing energies tear through the air, erupting into a massive, violent explosion. This very ground trembles from the sheer force of their attacks, creating a volatile sphere of energy as Jiun notes they are evenly matched. This power becomes dangerously concentrated at the point of impact, swirling into an unstable crimson vortex. This barrier struggles to contain the blast, which is about to detonate, sending tremors so powerful that onlookers mistake it for an earthquake. Lord Bell and his companion watch in alarm as the arena shakes violently, and he orders Rain to protect the others before rushing toward the chaos. This shockwaves nearly shatter the protective barrier, leaving Rain and Jiun to wonder who won the duel. Jiun recalls Lurak's vow as the tribe's chieftain, who swore he would never accept a single defeat, but Rainek stands victorious over his fallen rival. Lurak concedes, confident his people are strong enough to adapt. This challenger realizes Lurak never truly wanted the throne, only seeking to prevent the tragedies he saw outside, praying such a fate never befalls their home of Mudrak. Our boy connects this duel to the game's future events, as Rainek's persuasion succeeds without further bloodshed. This new chief orders the former leader's wounds treated, while Jihoon smirks knowing they have fast-forwarded the storyline. A sudden red glow then catches him completely off guard, signaling the arrival of an emergency quest. Jihoon's eyes widen in sheer panic, as the quest reveals an S-rank army is advancing on Warren. Lord Bell rushes toward him, shouting his name, catching the new lizardfolk chief's attention. Jihoon urgently explains that their home is in grave danger. While far away, a massive castle gate is ordered open, unleashing a vast army marching to the east. A lone warrior in a red cape watches from the ramparts, a cruel, confident smirk spreading across his face. Inside a grand throne room, the elite knights are assembled, with the 1st Division commander Aries answering the summons, and Euros, the 2nd Division commander, greeting his majesty. This commanders of the 3rd and 4th Divisions stand by, along with the leaders of the 7th and 11th, as the king tasks Euros with leading the subjugation force. A royal commander orders his troops to march out, their mission declared as nothing less than total annihilation. From the walls, a red-caped warrior watches the army advance, but 2 women suddenly join him on the ramparts. One of them, Aries, taunts him about his missing troops. Her condescending tone clearly irritates the warrior, who she playfully teases about being worried for her. He coldly dismisses her concern, causing her expression to sour, and she complains about the boredom of their current post. An attendant then confirms Lord Cancer is not joining the subjugation, revealing a packed schedule of performances and fan signings instead. His rifle-wielding companion questions his eagerness for battle, but the warrior simply states his desire to fulfill his king's dream. To do so, he must eradicate all monsters from the land. While in a nearby town, children confront a mysterious robed stranger. An old man reflects on his past as human and monster. When a child points to a star shining in the daytime, and the elder's gaze turns toward the sky, noticing a second star has just appeared. Meanwhile, Jihoon's party learns of a human attack. Realizing they must reach the city of Warren in 24 hours, Jihoon sends 2 of his companions ahead, remembering an item he'd previously given to Rain. He instructs her to use a B-rank enhancement stone, and after a flash of light, her power begins to shift, successfully ranking her up to a powerful rank. Jihoon then considers his own rank stone, knowing he will face the S-rank knight Libra Rib. He clutches the stone, praying for a successful upgrade, and with his mind made up, he heads out alone. Jihoon's party composition grants an attack buff, but he knows they need a real army. And he immediately asks the new chief if humans are attacking. Our boy explains that Warren is gathering a massive force of different monster races, when Lurak, the former chief, suddenly volunteers to go himself, declaring he will personally lead the warriors out of Mudrak. A concerned Jihoon calls out his name, trying to stop him, while a healer warns Lurak he is too injured for battle, but his mind is made up. As their first war outside their home, he feels he must lead the charge. But his body betrays him, coughing up a spray of blood. This healer reminds him he took a dragon's breath head-on and needs to rest, so another warrior named Derek steps forward to take his place. This new arrival causes Jihoon's analytical eyes to flare with purple light, revealing Derek as a high-level rank, a future chief candidate. Finding him qualified, Lurak accepts his offer as Derek vows to secure victory. And with his trust placed in the young warrior, Lurak gives his final approval. Lurak gives one final tearful command: do not die on the battlefield, and Derek vows to remember, swearing never to submit to his environment. Suddenly, a bunny girl spots Jihoon from a distance, calling out to him, and she runs over, asking what happened after seeing Belle and Rhea flee. Jihoon stands awkwardly as she finally catches up to him, her eyes widening in shock at the sight of the lizardfolk army. Before them all, Derek announces they are returning to Warren. This girl asks about her friends, but Jihoon says the lizardfolk will handle it, as Derek offers to carry him for maximum speed, while another warrior pulls the surprised bunny girl along for the journey. This scene shifts to a bright, sunlit clearing, where a powerful reptilian foot stomps onto the earth, its claws crackling with brilliant blue energy. 2 blue raptors stand ready, their gazes fixed forward. As Derek rallies the troops, declaring Mudrak's elite warriors will not fear the sun, this lizardfolk warriors stand ready for battle, as Derek gives the command to all forces, taking the first decisive step forward and leading the charge out of Mudrak. Jihoon notes their elite composition, 50-rank warriors, a small but powerful army now racing across the plains, their destination the besieged city of Warren. Elsewhere, a young noble summons a strange shadow weapon, a skill identified as the shadow nail, allowing her to create a waypoint for instant travel. This girl, Bianca, speaks of the permanence of shadows, as her companion, a blonde knight named Ryan, questions her actions, their shadows stretching out along the sunlit path, but Ryan suddenly twists into a monstrous form, forcing Bianca to warn her to keep her distance. A blonde warrior named Bianca stops at a distance from the main army, falling far behind the vanguard with her elderly companion. Suddenly, a rustle in the undergrowth signals an unseen presence, catching the attention of Commander Euros. He immediately raises his hammer, ordering the entire march to a halt, as his companions sense something moving in the forest. Euros dismisses it as a creature of instinct, not intelligence, but a lone wolf appears on the cliffside, watching them from above. His eyes narrow, recognizing the danger instantly, identifying the beast as a fearsome, dire wolf. A piercing howl echoes through the canyon, a signal to attack, and the sound carries across the entire valley. The soldiers look up in horror as the cliffs are now lined with wolves, numbering in the thousands, but Euros vows to annihilate them all. An officer barks orders, trying to rally the panicked troops into formation. This human army's shield bearers are ordered to advance, but a young woman questions the need to provoke a fight. As her armored companion notes the monsters are being lured out, on a nearby cliff the wolf chief sees this as his chance to strike, ordering his entire pack to charge into battle. A massive horde of wolves descends upon the human formation, and their commander orders the shield wall to brace for impact. This beast leap forward, aiming to overwhelm the front line, crashing against the shields with ferocious power. The soldiers dig in their heels, struggling to hold their ground, as their leader shouts for them to stand firm. But the wolf chief has another plan, ordering his pack to leap over the wall, sending a wave of wolves soaring over the defenders' heads. This is the moment the commander was waiting for, calling for the spearmen, who raise their weapons to impale the now vulnerable beasts. This spearman's trap springs shut on the leaping wolves, and a brutal order to annihilate the enemy rings out. Far away, the sun sets over a fortified city, where a lone guard lets out a weary yawn, wondering aloud if the enemy will even show up today. Back in the forest, the aftermath of battle is grim, a blood-stained sword buried deep in a fallen wolf. With its dying breath, the beast calls its killer a calamity. Though Bianca cannot understand its words, she only notes that its blood is the same red as hers, while her elderly companion recoils from the disgusting smell. Disgusted, he laments that war is nothing but filth. But Commander Euros orders the army to press on after a quick report. He commands their guide, a captured bandit, to keep leading them, as the old man smirks, confident in the knight's superior power. This human army lies in wait for a legendary knight. While far away, Jiun tries to contact Rhea in the forest. His voice suddenly reaches her, startling both her and Belle. Our boy decides to use his new group messaging feature, activating the skill with a single touch of his interface. This message echoes in the minds of his scattered party members, a telepathic broadcast to explain his new plan. Elsewhere, the sun rises over a rocky canyon, where a group of slimes are hard at work for their village. Their labor is interrupted by Rhea and Belle's sudden arrival, as a human army approaches a hidden mountain village. This commander orders an advance party to surround the area, intending to leave no monster alive. A new quest appears, defend Warren for an S-rank reward. But Jiun notes the enemy's march has slowed significantly. Jihoon's thoughts race, hoping Rhea and Belle succeed in their mission, while his companions question the village chief's plan. A scout rushes to warn Lord Tor of approaching enemies, confirming they are being closed in on from all sides. Rhea realizes with dread that they are completely out of time, just as a system timer hits 0, signaling the start. Meanwhile, a human army arrives at a massive cave entrance. Knowing a monster village lies within heavily trapped tunnels, their commander draws a card bearing the Taurus symbol, his expression grim as he recognizes its significance. He orders Libra Rib to take 50 knights and lead the charge, explaining they are a scouting unit to test the enemy's strength. This commander believes the king has overestimated the monsters, and he places a hand on Rib's shoulder, wishing her luck, a final gesture before sending her into the unknown. A blonde captain orders the captured bandit to lead the way, who nervously guides them into a dark, treacherous cave, searching for a trap that has mysteriously vanished. He insists the danger must still be there, and suddenly the floor collapses into a massive spike pit. As they fall, the captain calls out to her subordinate, Shamri, who immediately casts an earth-shifting spell, creating an earth tomb from the pit floor, which forms a solid bridge for them to cross. Their guide watches in disbelief as the traps are nullified, but then he spots a new threat he has never seen before. Shamri tells her captain to leave this one to her, as a massive stone hand erupts from the wall. This bandit is left speechless by the impossible sight, arriving at a junction of 3 dark tunnels. This bandit guide points them toward the brightest path, insisting the tunnel of light is the only way forward. They emerge from the darkness into a sunlit canyon, where Captain Rib immediately scans the area with suspicion. Before them lies a village eerily silent and still, but Shamri spots the ground riddled with burrows and obvious trap. Rib gives the order to confirm their suspicions, and a knight plunges his staff into the earth, casting flame burst, engulfing the entire field in searing pillars of fire. This inferno rages, sending smoke billowing into the sky, yet nothing emerges, prompting an order to search the village itself. Another knight grabs the guide, telling him to earn his keep. While Rib and Shamri advance, reminiscing about their past, Shamri teases her captain about being a coward in her youth, a claim Rib denies even as her friend recalls a forbidden cave. Captain Rib teases her subordinate Shamri, who admits she is scared, but Shamri insists she will follow any order as a soldier reports a hut is empty. A shocking report confirms every house in the village is deserted, leaving the captain baffled as to how they escaped a complete encirclement. Unconvinced, she orders her knights to search every corner for a hidden tunnel, finally considering the possibility that the monsters simply abandoned their home. At that moment, a section of the canyon wall suddenly bursts open, revealing Rhea at the head of a monster army emerging from a hidden passage. This is the start of Jihoon's first major operation. His plan revealed in a flashback: abandon Warren. He knew a direct fight against an S-rank force was a suicide mission, so instead the very ground begins to fracture. As the monster forces pour out of their newly made exit, their strategy is simple: lure the enemy into the tunnels they just escaped from. And from the village, Captain Rib watches the cliffside erupt, the trap now sprung. Rhea reveals her plan for the village itself, intending to turn the entire area into a prison. Suddenly, two knights from the human army arrive. Spotting a dark elf and shouting that he is running away, a soldier reports a tunnel to his captain, Libra Rib, who deduces the monster's retreat was a feint to buy time. She realizes the obvious escape route is a trap as the lone dark elf who stayed behind charges forward, making Rib suspect this was all intentional. Her subordinate points out another path near the graveyard, but Rib decides to end it now with her light sword dance, unleashing a devastating beam of energy across the village. This dark elf Bell stands firm, absorbing the blast to protect his allies, leaving the knights stunned that their attack was nullified. Rhea reminds Bell his skill is strongest against enemies in a straight line. An elf warrior brandishes a new weapon, the Scream Spike, his eyes glowing with dark energy as he declares his power, unleashing a massive dark slash down the narrow tunnel, and the knights charge forward to meet the attack head-on. This wave of purple energy crashes into their formation, a soldier recognizing the power as Lady Bianca's dark magic. Another knight despairs, realizing the attack is unblockable, leaving Libra Rib watching in horror as her unit is overwhelmed. But a new voice echoes through the cave. Light sword dance as a blonde knight appears, preparing a flash strike. Her brilliant light collides with the darkness in a blinding explosion, and she moves to engage the elf warrior directly. He stares back, stunned by her sudden intervention, their blades meeting in a furious clash of opposing forces. This attacker realizes she is the knight Jihoon described, the strongest of them all. This elf warrior parries a blinding golden strike. Shocked by the knight's overwhelming speed and power, he realizes she is a dual wielder just as he was warned, recalling Jihoon's words that he was the only one who could stop her. Their S-rank levels clash, revealing a significant power gap. Confirming Jihoon's assessment of her incredible strength, a flurry of blows rains down in the narrow passage, while Shamri watches the duel from a safe distance. She cannot believe a monster is holding its own against Rib's sword dance, yet the elf warrior stands firm against the onslaught, a confident smirk spreading across his face as he sizes up the strongest. Their blades meet again in a furious exchange of sparks, and with a compliment he begins to channel his own power, infusing his weapon with a sinister dark energy, a move that catches Captain Rib's immediate attention. This elf warrior's dark slash tears through the tunnel, but the blonde knight counters with her light sword dance. Their clash creates a massive explosion outside the mountain, alerting Lord Euros that a tunnel has been discovered. This commander begins the true battle of Warren. In a flashback, a scout watches the monsters escape, confirming they abandoned their village just before the blast. His subordinate reveals Rib is alive, tracked by a shadow. While back inside the cave, Rib faces the elf warrior, a hidden observer noting the elf's impressive skill, identifying the wounded but determined fighter as a dark elf. Lord Euros remains confident, believing no one can beat Rib alone, preparing to use an area of effect skill with his war hammer. He casts Earthquake Acceleration, boosting his army's speed, and his soldiers feel their bodies lighten for the charge. Lord Tor gives the order to attack the main force, and his monster army marches forward under a setting sun, while Rhea waits anxiously, noting Belle has not arrived yet. A sudden sound whips her head around in alarm, just as an arrow strikes a nearby slime with a splash. She stares in disbelief at the projectile, realizing with dread the enemy has already caught up. Her eyes widen in pure panic. For over the hill, a massive human army appears. Their archers take aim in a perfectly formed line, leaving Rhea to watch in absolute horror. This command is given, unleashing a storm of arrows into the sky, prompting Lord Tor to scream for the slime unit. Its members look up, completely bewildered by the order, utterly helpless as death rains down from above. A towering wall of slimes suddenly erupts from the ground, a living barrier formed from countless monster bodies, which easily absorbs the volley of arrows from the human army. This archers stare in disbelief, their physical attacks completely useless. Seeing their chance, the monster leaders urge their people to escape, but the human commander orders his forces to let no one pass. A knight smashes his hammer into the earth, unleashing a rupture wave, shattering the ground along the monster's retreat path. Rhea watches in horror as the trap is sprung. Seeing a massive wall of earth rise from the fractured ground, her fellow monsters can only stare as the terrain shifts before them, their only escape route now completely blocked. With the retreat cut off, the knight orders a full-scale charge, this human army surging forward with orders to kill them all, and Rhea stands alone, facing the tide of soldiers head-on. Desperate, Rhea calls out for Jihoon's guidance, but Lord Tor takes charge, roaring for everyone to prepare for battle. With no escape, the rabbit warriors resolve to fight to the death, and other monsters join the cry, seeing a chance for revenge. Even the slimes find their courage, joining the unified war cry. Witnessing their bravery, Rhea's panic turns into grim determination. A silent resolve settles over her under the darkening sky, her fist clenching as she abandons Jihoon's plan to retreat, for this was their second chance at life and they would fight for it. As night falls, a powerful skill activates, boosting all monster stats by 20%. This newly empowered monster alliance, 982 strong, charges into the fray, ready to clash with the 449 knights of the human army.